This is the moment you have all been waiting for. Introducing the host fighting out of Los Angeles, California. This man is a former amateur MMA champion with a lifelong addiction to all things superhero related. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the Iron Koob himself and his team.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 72 of the Iron Koob Superhero Movie Review Podcast. This week the team reviews Daredevil 2003 and Red Dead Redemption in full spoilers, followed by movie, television, and video game news. I'm Kia, your host. With me on the show today is Emerson.
Hey, what's going on?
And Everette.
Hey, what's going on?
Alright, so a couple things before we get into the show. Number one, we are in the process of rebranding. And I don't have a whole lot to say about it yet, but things around this show will start to change a bit. Hopefully by next week it'll be completely done, but if not, then it'll be a little bit of a transition. So that's cool and exciting. Second of all, those of you who are joining us from my Thor Infinity War review, I mentioned the fires, and I mentioned you, Everette, and I've gotten a couple comments saying, glad everyone is safe and blah, blah, blah. And, for those who don't know, Everette, you came up with the short stick at this California fire.
Yeah, unfortunately, I did deal with a lot of shit during this fire. I think that's putting it lightly. Long story short, without going into too much detail, is the fire came over the hill and destroyed most of my town, the town of Malibu, California. That includes my house and my entire neighborhood. So I'm recording from a hotel near the airport for now. That should change within the coming weeks, though, as I slowly get back my equipment, if I can buy it again or find whatever I can get from the wreckage. But for now, yeah, that's the situation I'm in.
Hold on, someone's here.
Don't laugh, you monster.
No, I'm not laughing at him. Jay just walked in with like a bunch of crap, and she didn't know she's got the puppy wrapped in a blanket. I don't know what's going on. So yeah, Everette. So as we were watching, we were sort of in the city, so we weren't in danger of being evacuated. We just had all the wind and the ash and all the poor breathing conditions without the threat of the fire. Mm-hmm. But I remember you kept asking me, like, you were texting me, hey, how's it going? Are you guys okay? Blah, blah, blah. And I was looking at the news. I'm like, and everyone's saying the fire's headed straight for Malibu.
Yeah.
And I remember texting you back, like, Everette, are you okay? Because it says it's coming right at you.
Well, I think that's literally exactly what happened. We had one of the scariest things I'd ever witnessed in my life. So in Malibu, there were not any firefighters. There were policemen, as Emerson and I discussed earlier. But there were no firefighters until several hours later because they were spread very thin dealing with the other fires like around the area. So the only way we knew how to evacuate was our neighbor, who had texted us, I want to say, 2 hours earlier. We had just woken up. She had texted my dad and said, you need to get out now. The fires are 6 hours away. So I walk outside. We had packed a couple bags, like very minuscule things. So I was putting stuff in the cars. And as I walk outside, up my hill, I think I sent you guys the picture, the fire just erupts over the hill and starts rapidly coming towards our house. And in the span of around 5 minutes, I had to run inside, pick up my mother and put her in the car. For those of you who don't know, my mom had a stroke and can't walk, so I had to throw her in the car. I had to get everything out of the house as fast as I could, and by the time my parents and I were exiting our driveway, the fire was touching my backyard and was burning down my entire neighborhood. So we barely escaped by the skin of our teeth. It was terrifying, but we successfully made it out. But everyone is really upset right now because, yeah, there were no firefighters in the area, and the whole town sustained a massive amount of damage. My whole neighborhood burned down. My school burned down. An area of Malibu called Malibu West. I want to say 12 houses burned down. I think 3 survived. The market and the post office are gone. A whole bunch of shit is now just ash, and the whole place is a nuclear zone. They haven't even opened up borders yet. No one can go back in. People have been stuck at the beaches. Animals have been displaced. There's just it's a clusterfuck right now. But yeah. It was terrifying.
I was telling you guys before that when I was watching the news, it was saying that basically Westlake was having like a wall of fire coming at it. And so the firefighters did really well to save, I think, like almost all the houses. There may have been 1 or 2 that fell, but they basically like drew a line there. Then at the same time in Calabasas and Agora, the fire was like just hitting sort of random pockets. Not like it was still spread evenly, but just certain neighborhoods were getting hit. And my mom's neighborhood, for one, like I was watching on the news, the playground went up in minutes. Like the entire playground and park was just burnt to a crisp within like 2 minutes. The news crews were standing out there. So that's when I was like, oh man, this is crazy. And I was wondering what the hell is going on. And it didn't even occur to me that Malibu might be in danger. And then that's when you were texting me, Everett. Mm-hmm. And and then like the news started saying the wind is pushing it towards Malibu, and Malibu is really in danger. And that's when I said to you, like, hey, don't you have to get out? And you're like, yeah, it seems like it's coming close. And then at one point you said, I went to PCH. I didn't know you cut it that close.
We everyone in our neighborhood was just running away, but we evacuated down to the beach along with everybody else in town, and that's pretty much all we were able to do. Like they had told us that the fire, like I said, was going to take 6 hours to get to our town if it was going to get there at all.
Yeah.
And it beat that time by at least 4 hours.
Yeah.
And it swept over my neighborhood in a matter of minutes.
From jumping the 101, it took an hour and 45 minutes for it to reach Malibu.
Yeah,
it was insane.
Honestly, people say all the time that like they explain how fast fire moves, but until you see it with your own eyes, you don't understand how fast that thing moves. Like if in the picture I sent you, that hill is around, I want to say 2 miles away. It took like 5 minutes for the fire to go 2 miles and like just burn through everything. It was like insane. And the other thing was that after it started sweeping through Malibu, the air quality started getting horrible because the wind was pushing all the smoke,
right? Not
inland. It was pushing it around the area. So while everyone was at the beach, and there were like horses and donkeys and llamas and everything from when everyone was trying to save stuff, it looked like an apocalypse movie. You couldn't see anything 5 feet in front of you. Everyone was wearing masks and goggles. I had to wrap a scarf around my face and wear sunglasses. Like, I'll send you guys another picture of what it looked like, but it was honestly like nothing I've ever experienced in my life. It was terrifying.
So what did you grab when you evacuated from your house?
Well, okay, so it's a little different for me than it is my parents. So the night before, my parents were basically telling me that Malibu has survived a lot of fires. My dad told me that in the time, like the 27 years he's lived in Malibu, he's had 9 fire warnings where 2 out of those times they were told to evacuate, but the fire never reached our house. Closest it ever got was like the upper hills, and that's it. So the night before, I packed up some of my stuff that I wanted to take in case we had to evacuate, and that's it. We never thought the fire was going to get this close. The next morning, we just had to run. So I got 3 bags out. In those bags, I managed to get like a few family heirlooms. I saved my deck of cards collection, which is kind of useless.
This is 3 bags for your whole family?
No, 3 bags for me, and I want to say like 4 bags for my parents. Like,
okay.
They saved some clothes, some pictures, and my dad saved all his hard drives with all of our junkets on it. But
yeah, that sounds about right for my mom. She was actually fortunate because before the fire started, she was actually already in Las Vegas. She was planning to come out here and help me with some stuff. But she was supposed to go back, and she got a text from a neighbor saying all the roads are closed. You're not going to be able to get back in. So she's out here now with me, actually staying out in Colorado. But all she did is she just grabbed some important paperwork, her computers, and that's it. And for those who don't know, I live in Malibu, but I'm a pretty large distance from where the fire breached. But it's still slowly moving towards us, so we're hoping that it doesn't gain more speed as it moves towards us. But last I checked from some neighbors in the neighborhood who decided to stay behind because they're insane, power is out there, no internet, no power, and they're running out of food because if they leave, they aren't going to be allowed to come back to the area because the roads
Right.
are all blocked.
I've heard that some people saying we can't
Yeah,
get
so
food,
what the reason they stay behind
and
is
there's no refrigeration.
yeah, they've been staying behind for years because what they do is he's a handyman, and he knows how to manually turn on all the sprinklers for all the surrounding properties. So he's always stayed behind and does that as the fires approach to try to save as many houses as he can. But I'm getting updates from him occasionally when he gets service, but it's scary out there.
Yeah, the couple times I've seen the fires go. Actually, when I was in high school, my junior year, we missed 3 days of school due to the fires, and they were pretty close. Like I was literally standing across the street from where the planes were dropping the water on top of the fire, from just like 100 feet above, and I was thinking, this is insane. How are they letting us stand here? And no houses burned. Like it seemed to me like in my opinion, it seemed like houses don't catch on fire that easily. But this time, I saw some of that. I saw some of like like in Westlake, the wall of fire was at the houses, and they just somehow they didn't catch on fire. Like somehow the firefighters did it and just kept it from touching the houses. I don't know, but then you hear about like Everette's situation, and there was like no chance.
From satellite imagery, you can actually see the plume of smoke going out about 150 to 200 miles over the ocean from Malibu specifically.
Jeez.
I was hearing news that it was starting to infect San Francisco's air quality.
Yeah. And it doesn't look good. From what I've seen from the maps, it's just
What percentage of
nightmarish.
containment do we have yet? Nothing, huh?
10%
Oh,
at
okay.
most.
Yeah, 2 days ago, I believe it was still at 0%.
Yeah. It had burned for like 2 days and was still zero.
It's burned well over a couple, like, I think has it reached like a couple thousand acres at this point?
Oh, it's I think there was a count of 34,000 acres.
Yeah.
Last count.
I
But-
think it's I know, or I think Jerry Brown declared it a national emergency.
Well, he urged Trump to make it a national emergency so we could get federal funds, and Trump's response was to tweet that this was our fault and no federal funds.
Mismanagement of like parks and resources.
Yeah,
or
right.
something.
Cut off federal
Good old
funding,
President Trump here to help us. But part of the reason it's so bad too
Emerson,
is
what does your mom think about that?
she's very enraged.
Trump?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's crazy.
Yeah. But well, because it's affecting us, and we know more about this. This is like a local thing for us. So
Yeah.
some of the veil has been lifted, perhaps.
Yeah, because most of the stuff is stuff that like is not related to you, and he just says nonsense. You don't know if it's true or not, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
But
know
now
it's not
it's like-
true, but I guess some people believe it.
Yeah. But basically, part of the reason this is so bad is these stupid winds.
Yeah.
That's why it hit Malibu so quickly, because the winds were
Yeah.
with it, just throwing on. And I read that a large portion of our planes and helicopters, had been lent to help with the Paradise Fire
Yeah.
up north.
Which
And
could
Yeah, there was,
be argued that is worse.
I mean,
So,
I think it is, but
Yeah.
like
Well, I remember
the problem is the wind also means that you can't fly helicopter missions when the wind is bad.
right.
Yeah, our neighbors were telling us that eventually when they started getting airdrops into Malibu, this was like hours after everything had burned and the fire was still like burning away. The winds were so terrible off the coast that when they brought in the Canadian bombers to drop the retardant, the wind just like dispersed it so much that it did barely anything. Like they dropped it and the wind just pushed it. So it was pretty ineffective.
Yeah, I don't know, man. So do we know what started it?
Last I heard, they were eyeing a faulty electrical thing, like electrical company was doing repairs or something, and it may have triggered. That was like speculation because
Yeah.
they're investigating some of the electrical companies.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that,
I
I
wouldn't
haven't
want to
seen
be
anything.
the cause of like the worst.
Oh, they
fire
aren't
in
going to get
California
punished. They're
history.
just going to claim, oh, it was an
How
accident.
about the fact that this happened? You know, I'm actually glad, like, for some things, because this happened a day after the Thousand Oaks shooting, and
Yeah.
it killed that psycho's 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah, thank Christ. But no, I feel so bad for those people because the shooting happens, right? And then a few days later, oh, your house burns down. Sorry.
It was kind of, it started in Camarillo, right? But it seemed like Thousand Oaks was one of the first to be evacuated.
Yeah, they were going hard.
Something else
And-
that I wanted to mention briefly that I never thought in a million years would actually happen was so we had a couple people like grow some balls and actually break the quarantine and drive up and down our neighborhood and take video and photos of everything that happened. When they made a video and they go past our driveway, in our driveway you can see the smoldering wreck of my car,
Jeez.
which I had to leave behind. According to so I think I've complained about my neighbors to you guys a couple times over Xbox,
Yeah.
but my neighbor, who is like notorious for like being extremely loud and annoying that I complain about all the time, his cars and my car included all exploded,
Jeez.
like up in flames, like exploded. So now they're like smoldering carcasses in our driveways, and I'm like freaking out.
Well, there were some reports of looting in Malibu too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a problem that my family are worried about too.
That's
We have a
another reason
gated
that
house.
guy's staying in the neighborhood.
Well, we have a gated house, but that really isn't going to do anything against people that want to run in there and steal shit.
Well, ironically, not in Malibu. The thing that's, I mean, obviously we're watching the fire very closely, praying it doesn't move towards my mom's house there. But, you know, for a long period of time, her horses were trapped. And we weren't sure what to do because the barn hand's like, I can't get through. I can't find a
Yeah.
trailer. And he was able to he found a trailer and he got him out, thankfully. And
Wow.
that was a massive weight off my mom's shoulders because she was really scared about that.
Where'd they go?
They are now at a place in like the border of Santa Monica that my mom used to board at a few years ago, I guess.
Wow.
So that's good. But one thing I wanted to ask you guys, because I can't seem to get a straight answer, is there a fire in Topanga as well?
Yeah, there was a brush fire that started today. That
Yeah.
I don't know how it started, but I think
Is
I
it
think they're
still-
controlling it.
Yeah, because that I was looking at that. I'm pretty sure my house is surrounded by fire on 3 sides now.
Yeah, but I thought the Topanga fire today was just a brush fire. It wasn't.
Well,
anything
I don't know
serious.
if because the whole of Topanga is still evacuated. So
I'm not sure. I know something started there, but I haven't heard much about it.
Yeah, I just happened to see something on the news today when I woke up. So
So yeah, Ever, like I said, they canceled school the entire week for me. So if you need a hand, let me know.
yeah, I think the city council issued a statement saying around Tuesday or Wednesday is when they're going to start lifting, like the quarantine on the city. So sometime later this week, I have to go out and venture out, and I have to like buy masks and gloves and a whole bunch of other stuff. But at some point during this week, I'm gonna head out there and start sifting through the rubble. And yeah, I would appreciate some help going through that.
So what is your responsibility here? Is someone going to come clean up the rubble, or?
Well, not that I know of. I think that's our responsibility is to get someone to do that. But I mean, we still have to pay property taxes and stuff, which sucks. But I don't know. It's our responsibility to go in there and sift through whatever's ours and whatever's salvageable, and then I don't know. I guess start cleaning up the property. I really don't have any idea on how to continue like on that.
Have your parents talked about what they plan to do?
Yeah, we're looking at temporary renting places up in Woodland Hills and Calabasas that we're thinking of moving into while we just get this whole mess sorted through. I don't think we're going back to the property though. I think we're gonna clean it up and sell it off, and then probably like move up to Woodland Hills and Calabasas. But still, it's a lot of work that we have to go through to do that.
Yeah. Interesting. That's weird
Yeah.
thinking that you're going to be living near us now. Or I guess
Yeah, it's gonna be odd.
that means you can come to Nikki's more often.
I guess you're not wrong.
Your internet should be better now, huh?
Probably. I mean, not that I'm making light of this entire situation, but my family and I had been planning on moving out for a while, except our plan was to sell the house instead of having it burned down.
Yeah.
But no, we were gonna move out in like a year, but everything just got escalated very fast, so we're just trying to work within the time frame we have.
So the value must go down for the land, right?
Oh, a shit ton. Like, because the house was the main value. Like,
yeah.
I want to say we have a little less than 1 acre of land. So that being burnt, the grass and everything will regrow. So it's still like prime property because it has a good view of the ocean and everything. But the house was like the main bulk of the price, and now that that's destroyed, once that's clear, I mean, people can buy the land and build whatever the hell they want, but yeah, it significantly reduces the price.
But also because all your neighbors are basically going to be selling too, right?
Well, every single house in my neighborhood burned down.
The entire neighborhood?
Pretty much, yeah.
The whole neighborhood is gone.
Entire neighborhood is gone.
I thought it was just your street.
No, it's my entire neighborhood burned down. The fire swept through everything.
Jesus.
Yeah,
that's like
beyond his neighborhood, Kia. Like, I don't know if you've seen some of this footage. Malibu is gone.
Yeah, like that portion of Malibu is just completely gone.
So where is that in relation to your mom's house, Emerson?
So
we live on opposite sides of Malibu.
Yeah, we live on the complete opposite sides of Malibu. Like, I'm really close. Do you know where Duke's restaurant is in Malibu? So do you know how there's a road there called Los Flores?
Sort of.
If you follow that up for about 20-25 minutes, my house is up at the top of a mountain up there.
Jesus Christ. Why would you want to live up there?
It's a nice view. It's quiet, secluded.
So far out of the way.
It is. But the thing is that we're lucky about is up there, literally maybe 10 minutes from my house, from the neighborhood, like the collection of houses, is a fire camp that's equipped with 6 engines, 2 helicopters. And so every time there's been fires, that camp always defends the neighborhood as their central point. So we've been able to survive. So we're like the farthest you can be from the fire still being in Malibu, but the problem is I can tell you based on the like environment around there that if it moves, if the winds change a little bit, if they don't get it under control, it'll take the whole neighborhood in maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because just everything's so dry and we have a lot of
Isn't your neighborhood
shrubbery.
like covered in trees too?
Yeah, it doesn't.
I know that was one of the issues with my neighborhood is that it was really dense with foliage.
Yep.
Like, we had a lot of
neighbors
eucalyptus
who've
trees.
refused to cut their trees, and several of those trees like lean over into our property. So, but that's part of the reason that a lot of people up there have elected to stay, because they're just doing that. But the thing is, there's no way out if the fire gets there.
Yeah. How are they allowed to stay?
Because no one's going to like come and forcibly remove them. They're just going to sit there and do what they always do, which is cook for the fire department and try to like encourage them to defend the area.
Doesn't the government tell you have to go?
Mandatory evacuation, but they're not going to send people up into an active zone. First of all, half the time they forget this place exists because it's out of the way, right? It's 20 minutes from Malibu, 30 minutes from Calabasas. Like, that's the outskirts of those places. So it's easy to forget this place exists. And furthermore, they're not going to send someone up there and endanger more people to try to get stubborn people out. But that's why I'm happy that my mom didn't try to stay and do that. I'm glad she was out here. Because as much as I'm praying that the fire doesn't touch my house or anything there, and as happy as I am that there are people there I can get into contact with, if the fire goes that direction, everyone's dead.
Yeah.
Because you are not going to get out. There's one road. One.
Jesus.
And if the fire goes up to that, bye.
The news was saying that a lot of people wait until the sheriff comes and knocks on your door to leave, and that just clogs up all the routes for the fire engines. And
that's the other thing. Our neighborhood is technically like not in an evacuation zone. Now, down on the main roads on both sides of us is the evacuation zone. But I'm fairly sure that whoever made the evacuation zone forgot that that was there because it's easy to miss.
Yeah.
So an evacuation zone surrounds the property, so I don't even know if they sent sheriffs up to the neighborhood.
See, that's what was terrifying about our neighborhood when we were leaving, is because since there were no firefighters or cops in the area, no one came to knock on our door or anyone's door to evacuate from the fire. We had one guy out for the entire neighborhood with a megaphone that was just screaming, "Everybody get out now." Other than that, everyone was free to do whatever they wanted. No one knew what was going on. So, like, if you didn't know what you were doing and didn't know what was going on, you could have lost way more than just your house.
I just sent you guys a picture that one of our neighbors had gotten to me of the view from the front of our neighborhood.
Jesus.
This was a day and a half ago.
And the fire hasn't moved?
I'm assuming it has. That's the problem. It hasn't gotten there yet based on what I talked about a few hours ago. But the winds are mainly pushing it other directions. Right. But, you know, like, this is what sucks about living outside of the city in California. When you go, it's just everything goes up in 20 seconds.
I sent you guys the picture of that I took when I was in my yard, right?
Yeah, that was terrifying.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on. Let's hope that all works out. About Daredevil 2003. Did you guys all watch it?
Yes, I did.
Did you have time, Everett?
Yeah, I watched it the day. I watched it the night before we evacuated.
Jeez.
Can you imagine, Kia? Everett's like, "Nah, I'm gonna stay here and watch Daredevil because the podcast comes first."
It's such a clusterfuck. Because one night I'm sitting in my room just watching this movie nonchalantly, and a couple hours later I'm running for my life down the street.
Okay, I have a lot of notes on this movie, by the way, and I have a very strong opinion.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to get into this.
So, one thing I wanted to ask you, Everett, first before we get into it was, what are your plans for Xbox?
Well, for now, I lost my Xbox and my headset in the fire, unless it miraculously somehow survived. But, I don't know. Save some cash and buy it on Black Friday, a new one, I guess.
Do you have insurance?
Oh, yeah, no, we have insurance, but we have proof of insurance, so I have to prove that I owned the Xbox in the first place, so that's not that hard.
Everett, in regards to that, there's actually someone out here who's selling an Xbox One S for a fairly low price because he's my friend. I could try to get that out to you. I could buy it and get it out to you.
I could pay you for that if you want, but...
No charge, but, like, I could just get it out to you. So let's talk about that more in the future.
We'll talk about it later, but I appreciate it. But
send it back with your mom.
Yeah, that would be the idea.
Are you coming back, Emerson, for Thanksgiving?
Well, I was planning to do it for a few days, but now that I can't get back to my house. If they don't reopen the roads and if the fire keeps moving in that direction, then we're just going to stay out here for Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. If the fire stops, if they reopen the roads, then I might come out for a few days at the beginning to just do what I can.
When is Thanksgiving? I completely forgot.
Next week.
Next week?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're in the midst of wrestling season. Not only did the school get a brand new weight room that is still not completed, even though it's supposed to be done by August. So we haven't worked out, and then we also cannot have practice since school is canceled. So we're just...
If anything, yeah, at least it's affecting all the communities in the area.
Yeah, that's what I figure. To be honest, it's actually good for me. One thing I learned about myself is I do not have the discipline to force myself to take a rest when I'm hurt. And
you don't say.
Like I tried to wrestle the Thursday before the fire, and the next morning I just like pounding headache. Like I was okay. I thought I was okay, but I just couldn't. I don't know.
I think over the last 2 months you've told us about a leg injury, an arm injury, 2 concussions.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
All right, so Daredevil 2003. Why don't you guys start with giving your... we're just going to talk spoilers about this movie, but why don't you give your reviews, Everett?
I'll start off just by saying I give this movie a C+. There's a lot of campy elements that I was really annoyed with, but seeing that this is like an old 2003 movie, I really don't judge it that harshly, because this is how a lot of superhero movies were back then before the kind of Marvel and DC changed it.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know. I didn't really like the acting in it that much, but there are a few instances that I give excuses for. So it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't good by all means.
Emerson?
Okay. So I understand that I'm supposed to give this movie a pass because it's older. I understand that they hadn't really perfected the thrill of it yet. And I understand that a lot of times people talk about this movie as horrible and you think, oh, it wasn't that bad. I rewatched it and I think it's absolute garbage. I think there's a few redeeming factors that are cool, but they're not nearly enough to make it better. So I'm going to give it a D. I'm not going to give it an F only because I realized that they were limited and maybe they didn't know what they were doing as much. But I was absolutely disgusted with this film. It was a huge failure, absolutely disgusting, very sad. I'm trying to be Trump right now.
Oh, I'm like, why is he? This is the most he's ever gotten to a review. This is maybe our most divisive movie ever because I gave it a B.
Really?
Oh my God!
It wasn't that bad.
The heresy.
It was pretty awful.
It had some like questionable decisions, especially in terms of the music choice. But I mean, we didn't properly introduce this movie. This is the 2003 Ben Affleck version of Daredevil, where he fights a black Kingpin, and it's mainly known for its use of like that rock grunge thing.
Yeah, I was noticing that the soundtrack is like, wow.
Yeah, so that was like, there was a time, I don't know if you guys remember, in the 2000s where they were trying to emulate the 90s with like, you remember Nirvana and all that kind of grunge rock? They tried to emulate that with Nickelback was kind of one of them too.
Yeah, I heard Nickelback in there and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it was like rock and honestly, Evanescence wasn't that bad.
Stuff.
But Linkin Park was good.
Obviously stinks of 2003. You can see a lot of the elements.
Well, I even wrote in my notes, I wrote, this might be the most 90s movie ever. What is this soundtrack?
Oh, okay, but I just want to be on the record that I like Linkin Park.
I like Linkin
Their
Park
old
too.
stuff anyway.
The singer's gone. I like Linkin Park too.
Chester, something.
But the thing is, like, it was a little too much in this movie going from song to song to song to song.
So it's a product of their time. Having said that,
so is racism, but we still can complain about that.
but having said that, wasn't the tone of the movie matching to the music?
Kinda.
I mean, it was trying to be.
I think it did it. I think it
It was stupid.
it was bad. It was bad, but it was what they were going for, and like they tried to make it good, but what they did put together is what they were going for. It seems to me. And
Okay, well, before I just start endlessly, unleashing what I dislike, let me talk about some of the things I did like.
Okay.
Okay? So I think it's really cool that he sleeps in a sensory deprivation chamber.
Yeah, that
I
was
think
one
that's
thing
really
I wrote
cool.
too. I like his apartment.
Because it makes sense. It makes sense. It shouldn't be colorful. He needs to really sleep. I also really like the way they show him as seeing, that like sonic type echolocation
Sonar, yeah.
where he's seeing through everything at once. And especially in that final fight with the rain, I think that's really cool that water allows him to see best because he can hear the little droplets.
I think that's cool, but I don't know. I can't get past that for some reason.
Well,
Like, the sonar I like, but the whole rain thing is just kind of iffy.
I was
to me.
okay with it. And then the last thing I will say is Kingpin he wasn't bad. He wasn't as great of an actor as like Vincent D'Onofrio or whatever.
Yeah, he's
but-
not as good as him, but
No, he's not. But
pretty
I
good.
like the physicality of him. He's
yeah.
this big, physical, imposing guy, and he is. It's almost like the idea of like barely restrained violence, and I buy it from this guy more than I did Vincent D'Onofrio.
yeah, I was gonna say that. So one of the reasons I gave it a B is because I feel like they did certain elements of Daredevil better in this movie than in the series.
I agree with that. However,
Yeah.
okay, the action scenes when he's a kid and he fights those bullies with his stupid...
Okay.
Yeah.
And so since we all seem to have like a bunch of notes, so let's go through this. We'll follow my notes, which is almost scene by scene, and we
Okay,
could rip it
that's
apart. The intro at the beginning with the city, like a CGI city, and like I don't know, there was something weird about the cross that he was hanging on.
Yeah, I don't know if it was like they'd CGI'd it in.
They
or
did.
Like
Something was
put
not
him in.
right.
The thing is,
Yeah.
some movies their CGI doesn't age well, but you can look past it. Like Star Wars is one. Like
Yeah.
obviously, or like some of the earlier movies. But the CGI in this movie, they use it so much, and it's just awful. Like
Is
that
this a
rat
Sony
at
film?
the beginning. Let's find out actually.
All right.
This movie made 179 million.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the atmosphere and around this film, which is they made Spider-Man and X-Men.
This is a Fox movie, by the way.
It's a Fox movie. Okay,
Yeah.
so X-Men. X-Men came out, and everyone says it's like the grandfather of superhero movies, whatever. Even though like the modern stuff, especially since the franchise is it's still going technically. So they made X-Men, and it made a decent amount of money. Then they came out with Spider-Man. Sony did, and that was like buckets of money. And so they decided to keep going. Remember, Marvel was bankrupt basically, and they were selling the rights to their best characters. So Spider-Man and X-Men were the first to go. That's why Iron Man, Captain America, these are B-level heroes. Not anymore, but they were. And Daredevil was one of the, like, not A-list, but it just lended itself to a movie a little bit better, right?
A little bit, yeah.
And I think he's one of the more interesting ones. So Ben Affleck gets cast, and if you go on IMDb, they talk a lot about how Colin Farrell was up for the role and Ben Affleck was up for the role for Bullseye and Daredevil. And so initially, and then they swapped. And
I'll get to him later. But.
yeah, we'll get to him. But so whatever, that was one interesting thing. A lot of people, this movie sort of came back into popularity a couple years ago when Ben Affleck was cast as Batman. And one of the reasons was that Ben Affleck said that doing this movie was one of the most humiliating experiences for him because he had to wear the costume. And he thought that was so stupid.
Wasn't this the movie where he met Jennifer Garner and they got married?
Yeah, that was the other thing, yeah. I was making jokes. Jade watched this with me. Because Jade was one of those people who liked that kind of music when she was like 12 or 13. So, like...
I mean, so was I.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, the movie was kind of right up her alley, so she watched this one with me. And I was making jokes about him banging the nanny the whole time. Every time he's like in love with Elektra. But what was I saying? So yeah, that was the other thing. So when Ben Affleck was cast as Batman, everyone was sort of like, well, he screwed up Daredevil. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he didn't screw up Daredevil. He wasn't that bad, actually.
I will admit, most of my complaints, they don't directly revolve around him. I don't like attack. They revolve around the plot, some of the costume, the set design, the dialogue.
Right.
I don't really, like, there wasn't anything about him specifically I disliked.
I bought him as a lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Dare I
it was
say-
interesting.
what?
I would like to see more of him as a lawyer. That was interesting to me.
I
They're
enjoyed seeing
actually-
Jon Favreau in this movie. For
There is a
second.
director's cut that has a whole side plot with Coolio. Do you guys remember him from the 90s? Gangsta's Paradise?
Yes.
So he was in the movie and they cut him to make it shorter. But he had the whole thing where like a cop was lying to frame him and like Daredevil helped him out. Something. So yeah. By the way, this is a fair criticism to the series, which we're going to make a lot of comparisons here. But there wasn't enough lawyer stuff in the series either.
And as, like, we've talked about before, the lawyer stuff we do get, like, it's kind of half-assed
Here or in the series?
in the series.
Yeah.
Like, there's times where he, like, I don't
Not
know.
on Foggy's end, but on Matt's end for sure.
Yeah. He, like, doesn't deliver or he just doesn't try.
The writers were not interested in that, I guess. Which is a shame because I like him way more as the lawyer who finds criminals who the justice system doesn't, like, catch. And then he goes and delivers his own brand of justice.
Speaking of that, for 1 minute, I'm going to just talk about the TV show. I think we talked about this briefly during our review of Season 3. So that fight scene in the prison that was their one continuous take, were you guys blown away by that? I don't remember.
I was not.
Yeah, people on
kinda.
Reddit are, like, praising it, and I don't understand why. It was cool.
Yeah, it
but
was
I
cool.
don't- But, like, it wasn't better than the previous ones. It wasn't better than the stairway fight.
No, it wasn't. It was great, but undermined by the weird fighting.
And also undermined by the fact that the previous seasons did it better.
Yeah. It was just like, it was the same old shit, basically. This time it was longer, and there was more stuff happening, but it's still like, oh, the bad guy shows up, and then he waits for Matt to hit him, and then he falls, and then Matt gets hit for no reason, and it's just like a lot of the same redundant action again and again and again. And it's like, yeah, that's not, like, no one has to see that. Yeah. If you want to talk about fight scenes people have to see, go watch the Eastern Promises bathtub scene, you know? Speaking as someone who takes these things very seriously, like, that one doesn't make my list. But yeah, was there something else to that, Emerson, or were you just bringing that up?
No, I was just bringing it up because you were comparing it to how Matt acts as a lawyer in the show, and I was just thinking about that long action sequence and how it's been getting all this praise that I don't think it really deserves. Right.
I do like Ben Affleck as Matt Murdock and as Daredevil, honestly.
Well, now since we're kind of talking about his lawyer side a little bit, I think it's a good time to bring up one of my notes is that there's a part in this movie where he's talking to Fisk, and Fisk asks him to like represent him, and he says the one line that I hate, and that is, "We only represent people who are innocent." I hate that, because if a lawyer does that, he must be a pretty shitty lawyer if he only represents people that are innocent. I get where that's supposed to be like a kind of a heroic line, but damn, is that stupid.
Yeah, I mean, you're supposed to do whatever your client wants, but I guess you do have the choice of quitting, right?
Yeah, I guess, but still, like, if a lawyer only represented people who are innocent, that would be pretty dumb. Like, maybe that's just me nitpicking a little too hard, but God, that pulled me out of the movie for a moment.
We'll give you a break because your house burned down. I like the cataracts.
Yeah.
Did you guys like that?
I don't really, like,
I like them, but it seems like the type of choice that, like, it's not so much that I'm
in the comics he has
this
those,
movie
right?
props for it.
Yeah.
And more, I'm just like, I don't know why the show didn't do that.
Yeah. I think it shows you that he's blind. He doesn't have to like look at a wall while people are talking. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
okay.
I'm trying to like think like how I can put this into words. I know you're used to hearing background noise, right? So I'm still there.
Really quiet there.
The issue with it is, like, as I said before, it's more of a fault on the show why they didn't do something like that. And like, I get the feeling that Matt didn't want to wear contacts all the time. I get the feeling that
possibly,
is why they didn't do that. But as I was saying, it wasn't enough for me to be like, whoa, he has cataracts, and like love the movie.
Yeah. No, I didn't love it for that. I just thought that was like a way better look for Matt Murdock.
It actually made kind of sense, because isn't the whole thing that made him blind, like his chemicals hit him in the face?
Yeah.
You feel like that would leave lasting damage.
Even if you don't want to do cataracts because he can technically see,
imagine
you should like change the color of his eyes, make him red or something.
In some of the versions of Daredevil, the chemical that hits him like is slightly acidic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if he like was missing his head? And he had to use, like, have you heard those stories of those chickens that like lose their heads but they're able to live because like some of the brainstem is still...
Oh my god. Okay.
And he's a headless lawyer. He's got like a text to speech to him. You can
like some guy in a red leather
Matt Murdock,
suit
I won't
walks
let
up
you
to
get
with
ahead
no
of
head.
this case.
He sticks a mannequin head on the costume.
And that's how they never think. They're like, could Matt Murdock be Daredevil? They're like, he doesn't have a head. There's no way he's Daredevil.
And it's like made of steel, so anytime someone punches it, it like breaks their hand.
Yes.
Oh, Jesus.
So this movie tries to explain the whole Daredevil aspect of Daredevil. The man without fear. The show didn't really do that. I think that concept doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because how did they show him being without fear? Like, At some points, he was like kind of badass.
But
But
when he was a kid, he like grinds with his shoes across rooftops.
Yeah, but that didn't make me feel like he was like without fear. That made me feel like he was an idiot or he was very skilled.
That's when they try to explain it. To me, I feel like he's the devil because his father was the devil.
Yeah.
Right? Wasn't his father
he
the
said
devil?
they said my father fought like the devil.
Yeah.
And they called him the devil.
Wasn't his fighter named the Devil?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when the character was first created, it was like the man without fear, and it didn't work. I think that needs to just go away.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice Tony Soprano's kid?
No.
As the bully, the main bully?
Oh, he did look familiar,
Yeah.
but I didn't put that together. But now that we're on that bully scene, what the fuck was that fight?
Yeah,
I want to hear you defend it. Defend it to me.
Well, there's actually 2 bullying scenes, but yeah, the second one with the fight, that I would say is like early 2000s action movies.
He uses the stupid plastic blind person cane and like flips the kid over, and the stupid music is playing, and I almost wanted to turn it off. I was like, I feel dirty just watching this.
If you watch like the first Spider-Man movie, he does some shit like that too when he fights Flash at the school. He does
nothing like that. He does like
some
the
slow
slow motion stuff.
He does the slow motion, not stupid backflip bullshit thing. Yeah, that's that time period. Yeah, which I don't really hold that against the movie at this point. You know,
it does not age well though at all.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, but like that's one obviously the show does better. But let's talk about the show showing the kid versus the movie showing the kid, because first of all, the dad in the movie, he actually looks like someone who would have a son Matt's age. Mm-hmm. He's old and over the hill, whereas in the show, his dad looks like a kid. Like he looks like a kid. I look
looks
older.
Really young.
Yeah, I'm 28. I look older than the guy who's his dad, and he's supposed to be like an over the hill boxer. And in the show, their explanation for why he dies is that he basically like had to win, because I don't know. I thought the movie did it way better. Where it's
I think the movie did his father-son relationship thing a little bit better.
Way
the
better.
show did
yeah.
his childhood better though, by far. Like, but they had more time to like establish Matt Murdock.
I don't
They showed you
know.
scenes with Stick. They showed him.
Do you guys
in the
like
last season
Stick?
Well, they showed him with Stick. They showed him in the church.
I liked
think like
Stick.
that's a little bit better.
Yeah, I liked Stick in the sense of like, I would not have bought that Matt became this expert martial artist on his own.
Yeah, but a blind old man.
Daredevil's the same thing. He'll be the same thing in 40 years.
I don't know.
But the thing is, I buy that more than
Bullseye beats his shit.
little blind kid becomes expert. Okay, you're gonna fucking give me a heart attack right now if we start talking about Bullseye. Oh my
God, yeah.
God.
No,
Okay,
Wait, which Bullseye are we talking?
We're not
about?
there yet. We're not there yet.
Okay.
Let's talk about his eye damage, as you said. I really like the power explanation, even though if it was a little stupid. In this, the weird thing is, with the series, as much fluff as they put into that, they never really showed us
what he saw.
Yeah, like
I think there may have been one scene. Or he describes it as everything's on fire, but he can see.
Yeah, and I don't know. You don't really get the explanation. You don't see it.
And
I
really liked in this film how he could see, because that makes sense how he'd be so skillful. He can see through the wall.
Yeah.
And I understand how he could do it.
Yeah.
In the TV show, it's kind of like he just like cocks his ear and he's like, they're coming. They have 46 different chocolates. The guy ate fish for breakfast.
Yeah, I mean, I like the smells, but he basically sees with a filter. Like, he's not blind.
Yeah.
Here, he's
But
blind.
if anything, that
Yeah. Well, he does
that's
echolocation.
kind of like a trope, though. Like for these movies, like doesn't that kind of not make sense? The point of Daredevil is that he's a superhero with a disability. He's blind, but doesn't the whole power set kind of negate that? Like, what's the point of having an injury if what you get after the injury just completely negates it in the first place?
I think the point is that he compensates. as opposed to like, hey, he's just as good. Like the point is that like he's still blind in the comics, and in this movie he's a blind man. In the show, not so much. He's like a faker. It's a little weird. Like, yeah, he went through something, but he's faking a bit. Yeah, I like the way this movie handled it. I'll be honest with you. That's one of the reasons I gave it a B, because the aside from that stupid fight, the beginning scenes, the origin, they do make me feel like I watched the dad and he sits in the hospital bed and he tells Matt, "I'm sorry," and it's like I can imagine what it might be like to be a father whose kid is blind because of some freak accident. What do you tell the kid? Like, you had your whole life ahead of you, and you know, being blind is basically being dead for some people, and then the kid like finds ways to overcome it, and it's a nice story.
It is, but see, I'm gonna have to go back to this thought. The more I think about it, the less I'm like, oh wow, great that they did that in 2003, and more, it's kind of stupid that they didn't do that in the TV show.
Well, it's by the book in 2003. The TV show, strangely, like we just said, also doesn't really show you how his father died.
I mean, they like bring it up. The TV show suffers from that thing of like, hey, we're going to introduce something that we've never talked about before at this perfect time to create a motivation so he does something stupid. Yeah.
I really liked how Matt basically like pushes his father to win the fight, and then he's the reason he died, you know, because it's like you want to root for the dad when he wins, and then it's like, you know, becomes a disaster. You know what this reminded me of, though, which is not a good sign? When they just, like, who really just straight up bullies a blind kid, honestly?
Yeah, but it's 2003.
But remember the Shazam trailer where we were laughing about, like, it's so blatant the way they were teasing that kid at school, you know? Like, no one makes fun of the handicapped kids like that.
I mean, didn't we also I made a comment about that when we watched the most recent Predator movie. Those kids came in and started bullying.
Yeah, no one does that anymore. No one, like, they just avoid them.
Yeah, that's because, like, if you do
they bully them on social media.
Fucked up a lot. Like, you will get screwed
it's more
over
like the issue you face today is you get bullied on social media and like no one wants to be your friend. It's not that someone comes up to you and is like, "Hey, what's up, punk? You ready for the beatdown?"
It's literally like
is worse.
Which is almost sad in like a pathetic kind of way. But it's the biggest problem nowadays is literally, aside from like weird hazing incidents where they stick something up your ass, but the biggest problem right now is like the kid has no friends. Yeah.
Is there a thing where they stick things up their ass?
I just saw something. It happened at Calabasas High School, strangely enough. When I was there, I think the baseball team. Maybe it was the year after.
That's a pretty common hazing thing. Like,
I recently saw it again on Yahoo, like somewhere else.
Yeah, they do it a lot. It's like, especially I think it's football teams.
Yeah,
like get in trouble for
all
a
teams,
pretty large amount.
But yeah, so we talked about the music choices. I personally feel like the music matched the movie, even though it's incredibly dated now.
Yeah.
So when he's an adult and we see his home life, I like his apartment. Mm-hmm. One thing I liked about the show was how he had that giant billboard always putting light into his place, and he didn't care because he's blind.
But like, he should have been able to hear like the bzzz of the neon lights.
Yeah, that would have driven him crazy.
That's why he became Daredevil.
Like supersonic hearing. It's just constant zzz. You know, people when they go to too many concerts or whatever, and they start getting that ringing in their ears. Yeah, they kill themselves over that.
Yeah, because it's insane. You just you can't stop hearing it.
Yeah. But like you said, Emerson, I like the way he sleeps. I liked all that. I liked the voicemail from the girlfriend saying like, you know, you're a loser. I thought we were gonna be more, but you're just some freak. Whatever she was saying. She wasn't that mean, but
she was like, "Why are you going out at night?" Like,
she was pretty scathing. Yeah, she's like, "I thought we were gonna move to the next level. Turns out this is the next level. Goodbye, Matt." Like, I liked it.
He's like, "I don't give a fuck."
It's a little on the nose, but I liked it. What'd you guys think about the lie detector scene? I loved how evil the criminal guy was, where he's just sitting there, he's like, whatever. And doesn't he at one point say that she wanted the rape or something?
Yeah, he's like, whatever after that was consensual, and you know what? She just had a good time.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was okay with him being evil, and I was okay with Matt being able to like hear that he was lying.
Yeah,
That's like a common thing. For
it's a
But, like,
classic Daredevil
Yeah,
scene.
as I'm saying, like it's not so much that I'm like, wow, I'm glad they put that in. I'm more just like, if they hadn't put that in, they would have been morons.
Yeah, I liked it. You sort of get that in that first episode, don't you, of the series?
I think so,
Yeah, he like twists. Well, there's a few times it's mentioned that he can tell if you're lying, but like, I don't know. As I've said before, it's more like they just bring it up when it's convenient. Because there's a lot of times people I think do lie to him, and he like has no idea.
Well, yeah, yeah. But I think the series itself also started with a scene like that, didn't it?
I think
When we
I
first see
don't
Matt
remember that,
Murdock,
to be
he's like
completely
helping
honest.
some case, something like that. Anyway, this movie is supposedly where Jon Favreau started talks for Iron Man,
He was good. I liked him.
which occurred 5 years later. Yeah, he was a good Foggy. I like the other Foggy too. Some people don't like him. All right, what do we feel about the costume?
I wasn't terrible. I liked it.
Yeah, I didn't have any particular issue. Although, a few times, like, the eyes were red. It's fine. But I feel like they were, like, a little too red or too protruding. Like, it was kind of, like, weird
I
how
mean,
red they would be.
You can
Maybe it's
see
'cause they
the obvious
focused in on them.
difference between this movie and the series because the modern series now has that superhero gear where it's like modern and body armor looking. This is more like old fashioned where superhero costumes were like spandex.
Yeah, it's less
Or,
it's
like,
less
super high-tech
militarized.
all the
If I had to choose between the two, I would pick the movie costume. But ideally, I would like something a little more in between. I don't like how practical the other suit was with all the black pads, and it looks weird.
Yeah.
It doesn't even look like a hero costume. It's like
It looks like a military suit.
not even that. It's like a motorcycle jacket and pants, like with pads. Like, what are you doing?
I'm trying to picture the suit in my head and I can't. Does he have the horns? Because
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you,
he
wait,
does.
couldn't
which
really
suit
notice
are
it
you
most
talking
of the
about?
time.
I mean, they both have horns, but
He was asking if in the movie they had the
like in the
horns, I
movie,
think.
like
yeah,
Yeah.
what that costume is missing to me is the jawline. I think, especially Ben Affleck has like a big head. That was too much, I think. And then also, if you take that costume and you add just a little bit more tactical stuff to it, like some better ribbing, a few black pieces, not like the way that this one did, but I think just make it a little more tactical. I think you could update it very nicely and it would look just as good. And I like how it's a little bit homemade. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
leather. I liked it. I don't know. I remember that was a criticism when the movie came out too.
I mean, that's fine. So Elektra in this movie, we meet her in a.
Well, let me
coffee
ask you one
bar.
other thing. What did you guys think about the acrobatics, like the way he traverses the city?
A lot of it was CGI, which meant it was hard to watch.
Bad
Yeah.
CGI, but
not
a good
not
idea.
terrible-
Yeah.
not
It was a
terrible
little
ideas,
Spider-Man-esque.
but- Well,
Well,
yeah, like
he's
when
not-
when you watch Spider-Man now, like the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, there are a lot of parts there too where he looks like a rubber band character. Like you can't get past that. That's just what they had at the time. But for what they had, trying to get past all the CGI in this movie, it wasn't terrible. Like it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it did that part a lot better than the show. The show didn't have the budget for it, I think. But he looked like a hero to me. Whatever. The sonar shots, we talked about that a bit. There's that bar fight. I kind of liked it, aside from a few things. His fighting wasn't terrible. It wasn't like super fake. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't doing nonsense superhero stuff. It's not as good as some of the hand-to-hand in like the first and second season of Daredevil. But like, it's better than the stuff between him and Bullseye. Even though like the technique is a little better in the show, the pacing and like, I don't know. There's something about the show that's very drawn out, and the punches are worthless because one guy can get hit like 30 times and no one cares. Like no one falls, there's no pain. They act like they're in pain, but then they just get up and keep going. And this movie was, I feel like you felt like he hit harder and the people hit him harder too. And I kind of like that. The only stupid part was when he jumps up to the ceiling fan.
Do you have a note on the train scene, or can we bring that up too?
Is that when he kills the bad guy?
Yeah.
Do you guys like that he kills?
No.
I'm okay with it.
I
don't
like
think he
it.
shouldn't be. I don't think he should be like. I
I'm
don't think
not
he should be
okay
like,
with
I'm gonna
him.
kill everybody, but I also don't like heroes that are like, I'll never kill. It's stupid drama that you add for like no reason.
I mean, that wasn't really a kill if you think about it. That was more like the Batman Begins killing. Like, I'm not gonna kill you, but I don't have to save you thing.
Yeah, but this is more like he taunts him. He's
Yeah,
like,
that's the C train. That's
yeah,
not heaven.
that white light is not. Now, see, the thing is, I don't think Daredevil should kill because he's supposed to be like a good Catholic, close to God and all that. But I feel like in some ways death is part of religion. And he's making a conscious choice to do the devil's work, you know?
I mean, yeah, if you
And in a way, God's
if you
work
take
too.
the words of George Carlin, more people have been killed in the name of God than any other reason.
He, you know, if he feels like a guy should die, someone who like got off easy or something because of the Kingpin or whatever, and he feels like that person deserves to die and he kills them, that makes sense to me as a character that he would do that. I don't know. And Batman too, because these are both broken people, right?
I mean, it kind of makes sense. It makes sense for Daredevil purely because, like, his whole moniker is justice, right? Especially in this movie. Hell, he comes out and says it like 3 times.
And his own brand of justice, obviously, because he tries the lawyer way first, and then it doesn't work. That's what I like about it, is that he does the law. It's not like Batman where like he kind of has to let other people do it. Like he takes the case, he tries to get the guy sentenced, and then it doesn't work. He's like, motherfucker, you ain't going nowhere. And he finds him later that night, and he kills him or does whatever he has to do. What about the burning symbol? Was that a little cringy?
Yeah,
Yes.
that was a little cringy.
It makes sense, you know, the devil, fire, burning.
Yeah, but
Yeah, the
Yeah.
blind guy.
so
likes
many
to burn
people have made
symbols.
fun of that scene. How
Fantastic.
Robot Chicken made fun of that scene.
Okay. The worst scene of the movie.
Which
Do we know?
Okay.
Do we know
So
which one I'm at?
The playground fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have this in my notes. Playground fight. What the fuck?
What kind of fucking woman attacks
Okay,
a blind
so let
dude
me-
in the
no, let's
first
break
place?
That
down the
scene is for
levels.
women. Let me just say that scene is for
Let's
women.
break down the levels of fucking stupidity about this,
Yeah.
okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, we have a blind person following a woman on the street, and she like kind of mentions it, but not really. Then they like start doing this thing. I guess it's supposed to be sexy. Where like, oh look, they're fighting, and the stupid fucking kids who are playing basketball all like mob around them, like, whoa, cool, and they're on a fucking seesaw. Okay.
Yeah.
If anyone listening has not seen this film, I recommend you Google, YouTube this stupid scene.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's
is-
atrocious. It's
Yeah,
atrocious.
it's horrible.
every level of it is obscene.
This scene is a hard F.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, even if like this is one of the main reasons why people give this movie a shitty review, is this tanks the movie in a lot of
And
ways.
so, like, I don't like Ben Affleck. He thinks the costume was the most humiliating thing he did.
No, that was the most humiliating.
Like
Well,
when you're fighting on the seesaw, you weren't like what is happening here? You didn't. I don't know.
yeah.
Anyway.
I'm- okay,
yeah.
but let's talk about what we see after that.
Okay, bullseye.
Okay. You have to admit, he looks like a fucking moron. When he takes the stupid fucking beanie off, I think I was drinking something at that moment and I choked on it.
Had you not seen this before?
No,
Dude.
not.
Oh,
I hate Bullseye in this
see,
movie.
I knew it was coming.
I hate him in this movie, but god damn it, I laugh my ass off at him in this movie.
I
just, like, I was
kind of
disgusted.
like him, not in like a I want to see more of him kind of way, but within the context of the movie, I think he's
Dude,
he's
he's got-
hilarious.
A
He's just-
bullseye fucking
he's
carved
so
into his
fucking over the
stupid
top.
head. And he's just, oh my god.
But
He's
he does-
funny, but not in a good way. He's
He
not
did-
funny in the sense of like, wow, this guy's funny. He's funny in like, this is absurd.
Well,
They do a couple things right with him, like, and I'll get to the like when we get to the part where he and Elektra fight at the end, I'll make a note on that. But
Well, I have something to say about
I think I told you guys when we were reviewing Daredevil season 3 that this movie had a few scenes that were really iconic for me. the paperclip scene and the peanut scene. The only reason why I say that is because when I was a kid, when
You
my
wanted
parents
to
watched this
kill
movie without
women
me,
on planes with peanuts?
well, no. Those were the two scenes my parents decided to show me when I was a kid.
What?
So those are like burned into my head.
Wait,
and I
they
remember
like sat you down and they're like, you need to see
'cause,
these two scenes
I was like
from
super into
Daredevil.
comics and stuff, and this movie came out, and I was like a really little kid, and my like two years after this movie came out, my parents were like, "Hey, you want to watch like a kind of like dark superhero movie?" And I'm like, "I don't know," and I was like, kind of like this was back like when I was like a freaking pussy about a whole bunch of stuff. They showed me those two scenes and they laughed my ass off. So,
What are you trying to say with that word, Everett?
when I was
Everett,
a kid,
come
I
on,
got
dude.
scared by a shit ton of stuff. Like
Come
when
on, dude.
I went and I watched Batman Begins in theaters, and it fucked me up for like
now we're
for
gonna
years.
have to have a Huffington Post article written about our podcast.
Yeah,
about
what are you trying to say about women with that word,
I'm
Everett?
not trying to say anything about women. I'm saying I was a scaredy cat when I was a kid.
Yeah, why did you use that word? You're
What
saying you
word?
were like a woman?
No.
God, Everett. Oh my God. Now, are you gonna like endorse our president right now? Come on, dude. Like, let's not
Yeah.
go down this path.
So anyway, yeah, Everett, there is something scary about what he does. Like with the paper clips, it's like kind of disturbing, and I'm a little bit afraid of him when I watch it. I'm like, I remember that too when I was young. I was probably 13, but I remember looking at that like, "Man, that's kind of scary. Like if someone could do that to you. And then we get the next scene, which is so funny. The airplane peanut with the old lady.
Yeah.
Dude, it's. I'm convinced you're supposed to laugh at him, because the way
Okay.
that scene plays out, there's no way they thought this was gonna be badass.
I just want to point out too, when I was first watching it, I like looked away for a brief moment when he did that, so I was confused as to what happened, and I had to rewind it.
It's just a really clever way to show off his power set.
Now the part that really puts it over the top is after he chokes her and he starts like sniffing her with a trembling lip. Yeah, that
I know. That's like, okay. I like Colin. It's Colin Firth.
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell. I like Colin Farrell usually. I was disgusted.
Yeah, I mean it's not good, but is he trying to be over the top? Yeah. And the movie wants him to be, so I'm okay with it.
Okay, well,
They're not
After
they're
that
not
plane
taking
scene-
the approach from the comics for
Wouldn't
sure,
you-
even though they do a couple things right with that. But it's so over the top to the point where it kind of like takes you out of the immersion. For
Isn't
a
it
little
weird how he asks Fisk for a costume and then we never like hear about that again?
yeah, I thought I missed something, and maybe he was wearing a costume.
It's supposed to be a joke, but it doesn't come off that way. You're like,
Yeah, it
I
comes
guess
off
he's
as
getting
he
a
wants a
costume.
costume, and then like, okay, but don't you think like after like, there's like kind of a lull in the middle of the movie. First of all, this movie was shorter than I thought it was.
Yeah, it's only like an hour 43 minutes.
Yeah, but like, there's like a lull after like Bullseye's on the plane to like Elektra, his father gets killed.
Well, sort of. I like the scene where he takes down that guy, the dad, and then he sees the kid and he's like, I'm not the bad guy kid. I like that. I wish that was a theme the movie explained more.
Well, I mean, he looks like the bad guy.
He looks like the bad guy. He's the devil. Like he's saying like I'm gonna be this guy, but then to the public he's a terrifying person. And then I guess he like this leads to all the killing and or not killing that he does in the third act, which we'll get to. But I really like this like scene where he tells the kid like I'm not the bad guy, but he is. So that again is a quality scene. I don't know. Then we get the rain scene where he sees Jennifer Garner. Did you like this?
I mean, I liked, as I said before, I like the idea of how, like, rain allows him to see better. I think that's cool. But
And he sees her face. Is that romantic? Does that work?
it's not romantic. I wouldn't say I liked it, but what I'm saying is, because I wasn't looking at it like, wow, this is romantic. I was looking at it as, this is cool. I like the idea that rain, because of all the little vibrations, allows him to see a clearer image.
I just blew that entire scene off as like really cheesy, and I didn't really care that much.
There's something cheesy about it, but I think a lot of women like it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that a character named Wesley was in this.
He doesn't really do anything.
No, but that was interesting. Is that in the comics ever? Do you know? I don't remember a Wesley.
I don't
Wesley?
remember it very often.
Wait. Wesley he's really he's always with Kingpin, isn't he?
I don't know.
Who's that guy in the animated Spider-Man cartoon who goes around in a fucking hover chair?
That's Alistair Smythe.
Oh, well then I was
Wait a
confusing
minute.
Wesley and Alistair Smythe.
Yeah.
The hover chair. What are you talking about? Are you talking about MODOK?
No, he's talking about Alistair Smythe.
Okay. MODOK has a hover chair too.
I mean, I'll give you points for trying, but
MODOK. No. Yeah, I know. But MODOK is that weird head in the box or something.
Everett hears hovering, and he's like, "It's the."
I
head
mean, I
guy."
heard you say hover chair, and I like zoned out for half a second.
It's
thinking
Alistair
about that.
Smythe. Yeah, that's the best version of Kingpin still, by the way. That animated version.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, he's fantastic.
So we get to the assassination. I remember when I was 13 thinking Jennifer Garner was like the most beautiful woman in that scene where she comes down. I was like, Jesus
kinda
Christ,
ugly.
women like that exist. And then this time I don't know. Yeah, it didn't. I was just like, she looks all right. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, she looked pretty.
unless-
I just didn't care.
She wasn't. Maybe it's because our society, like, we see like a lot more like beautiful women now.
Yeah.
Like we have access to that. I don't know. But
She's
anyways,
pretty, but not pretty enough to
so
stop you
with,
from
with
banging
that
the nanny.
scene, right? The CGI
Yeah.
between Daredevil and
Well, when
Budget
he's running on the
Punisher.
rooftop.
yeah, just all of it. Like when he's trying to fight Budget Punisher during the assassination, it's all just horrible CGI.
Yeah, but remember, this is the same time as Ghost Rider. Remember that CGI?
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
but you know what?
Okay,
I
yeah,
liked
but
that
I'm
movie.
still gonna criticize it. It's horrible for me. I understand that I shouldn't like, because this is like going back to Star Wars and being like, oh, the CGI isn't good enough. But like, I don't know. Lord of the Rings came out, and that movie looks a million times better. They found ways to round it.
It doesn't look that much better.
Oh, it looks 100 times better.
Lord of the
You
Rings
need
is
to-
well, they're completely different movies. The CGI in Lord of the Rings is a lot more practical. In this, you can see it like
What
really
I'm saying is,
clearly.
like, they knew the constraints of the CGI. And I don't think this CGI looked cutting edge when they did it either. I think people knew it
No,
looked bad.
but it was passable. It was passable.
I'm sure back in 2003 when people saw this in theaters on the big screen, they didn't care whether or not it looked fake. I'm sure
We
critics
weren't
did,
used to it yet.
but yeah, they like weren't used to it.
We're used to it now. We know what CGI looks like. When we see bad CGI, we identify it. Back then, it all just kind of looked like... I would look at it and be like, well, that's probably not real. But, yeah.
All right.
But I actually thought that the fight between them was pretty good. On that road. Compared to what we see in the series. Like,
Are you referring to how, like, Daredevil actually, like, beats him?
Well, not just that. Just in terms of they're applying their two talents against each other. And, going toe-to-toe. And it's a little campy in some ways, but they're playing within the context of the character. Like, it wasn't how Daredevil gets beaten in hand-to-hand combat against Bullseye in the series. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Here, they're both doing what they're good at and, like, hurting each other in the ways that they're good at. I liked it, and I thought that there was good rhythm to the fight, too.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I'll
that's
grant
true.
it, but...
And
Also,
then,
how the hell was Elektra, like, an expert fighter? Is that ever explained?
yeah, she says, my father trained me.
That's stupid.
Well,
If
it's not
I'm
any
not
more stupid than the
mistaken,
series.
Didn't this movie get a spin-off with her?
It did, yeah, which we'll watch at some point.
Oh God, I hated that movie.
So,
What?
you guys saw Kevin Smith?
Yeah. That makes sense that they.
I actually
did it,
like
yeah.
this scene where he's like, wait a second, and then he shows him the cane. And it's like, you know what I mean? I like that. I like that. That's Ben Urich, by the way, that Joe Pantoliano is playing. That's Ben Urich, who's the black guy. Remember Many Rivers to Cross, that guy?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's him.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Many rivers to cross.
I like Kevin Smith's scene in this. Okay, second stupidest scene in the movie, Elektra training.
Yeah, the damn sandbags. Oh my god.
I just want to die. Let it end.
But it had a good song. It had one of the better Evanescence songs, didn't it? I can't remember the song. There was this like a sad song that was from Evanescence that was like a pretty big hit, and like it was good. I liked hearing it even in this film. I'll admit it. Yeah, but her like slashing at the sandbags.
It was just.
But again, this was a time where you didn't really have female heroes on screen. There was the other Halle Berry Catwoman movie. Like you didn't really get.
Okay.
She was the most badass that I had seen at 13 years old.
I'm gonna go into this later about her, so I'll save the thought for now. But she's just stupid. I think I was just like, what?
No, she's stupid for sure. She's stupid, but I think that again, it was passable for the time. Like that wasn't one of the criticisms, strangely enough. In fact, I remember a lot of my friends saying that they thought that this movie was sad, and they didn't know how to feel about it. But there was no one said.
In many ways, just not like
no one
emotionally
said.
sad.
Well, compared to Spider-Man, right, or X-Men, where they win and all that, but no one said anything about CGI. No one said anything about Ben Affleck. No one said anything about Elektra. No one said anything about Bullseye. No one said anything about Kingpin or the fighting or or whatever. Like none of that. Everyone was just like, it was a good movie. It's just like we didn't know how to feel at the end. And I think because the movie is structurally flawed, which we'll talk about when we get to the end. But so anyway, that scene, I've seen clips of Ben Affleck when he's like chasing Elektra through the laundry and the birds like fly in his face. I've seen clips of him where the birds kept like flying at him and he had to duck, and he's like, is this a practical joke?
Have you empathized with that?
Well, I just thought it was funny. Like, I thought that this whole fight scene between the two of them was not the best. Not terrible, but not the best.
Yeah, I'll agree.
And I was happy to see her die.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like she's pretty shit against fucking Bullseye. Like he kills her so.
Well, that's a
fast.
ridiculous power set. He doesn't miss. So what the fuck?
Yeah, and it honestly, like, I do have a note on that. I hated seeing that scene, but at the same time, I'm so surprised that they were comic accurate with that. The scene where
stab.
Bullseye stabs her through the chest. That is a shot-for-shot remake of the comics. And
But I think it helps with ratings, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of. But wasn't that like a big controversy with this movie that it was like really violent?
Yeah, it kind of was for the time, for sure. What we're talking about is when she gets stabbed through the torso, the blade doesn't protrude. It stays under her shirt, so like her shirt goes out, and they did that in the comics to avoid censorship because that was too much violence at the time. Mm-hmm. I forgot to mention when Bullseye kills Nachios, the father, and Daredevil's like jumping to try to catch his baton, and then the explosion, like
fucks with his abilities.
Why would it make him see multiple? Wouldn't it make it even more clear?
I feel like if
yeah,
it was
it's a
that
good point
loud
because
and
it's
he
a
has
sound wave.
hypersensitive hearing, wouldn't that like? Yeah, I feel
But
like that would mess with him a little bit.
Well, but the thing is, like, he sees the sound waves with echolocation. There would be a ton of sound. It would be like lighting up a room.
I could see it being overwhelming to the point where he can't see anything. But to see multiples, that doesn't make sense to me because they're not in the air.
Like if you think about it, like if you're picking up something on a sensor and you overload the sensor with too much vibration or too many like sound waves, like that's kind of like what that would look like. It would be like too much input, and it would be too much for him to take.
Yeah, but we're saying it would overload
in a video
him.
game, when you get too much input, what ends up happening is that you like you see the same, like you see like nothing essentially. The screen freezes because it just can't do it. But what Key is saying is it's weird that he sees like 60 and has to guess which one to grab.
Yeah, because they're not in the air, so what are the sound waves like showing him?
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess it makes sense. I mean, Emerson's right. If anything, he wouldn't see anything. It just would be like...
I think it would overload. Yeah, he wouldn't see
Yeah,
him.
it should have just been white.
So, yeah, when Bullseye kills Elektra, to me, that sort of helps Bullseye become more of a villain. Like, it shows you how lethal he is. I liked it, and I also liked seeing her die.
Of course you did.
So it's kind of interesting how quickly, like you said, it's a short movie. Elektra goes from being like the damsel in distress to training montage to death.
Yeah.
Like she gets one scene to fight Daredevil, and then she's gone.
Well, it's not permanent, but yeah, it is pretty fast.
I never saw that Elektra movie, but we're definitely going to review it at some point.
Oh no, it's pretty
Kia,
terrible.
why do you do this to us?
I kind of like watching these bad movies.
It has
Yeah,
a lot
there's
to do
something
with
funny about it. But
It
okay,
has a
so
lot to do with the hand, but it's
the next
pretty
scene
awful.
that's significant. Oh god, the next scene that's significant is it's them fighting in the church, right?
The church fight.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
A better church fight
chokeout-
than the series, if you ask me.
the chokeout match though is dumb as shit when they're choking each other.
I don't remember that.
They there's like a solid 10 seconds where like Daredevil grabs Bullseye's throat and then Bullseye grabs Daredevil's throat and they're both like "Ugh," as they're like choking each other. And they're standing, by the way. They're not like on top of each other. This is how they open the fight. They're like standing and choking each other. And then, okay, there's a bit of brilliance where like, okay, Bullseye figures out sound isn't good and
Yeah.
like fucks with him. But then at one point, like, bats come out when he like rips something down, and I was like, what is this? Like from behind like the organ pipe, bats fly out. I was like, what?
I don't know. But I thought it was a
Batman
very
origins
tense fight,
early.
and I liked it. I did like it.
Physics was not there.
No, yeah, it was a little too grand on that scale, but it was better than the one in the TV show, wasn't it?
And do you think what happened to Bullseye? Do you think that was any better?
Okay, this is the thing. He throws him, he surrenders, he throws him out of the window onto a car and says Bullseye.
That was dumb as fuck.
So the problem, I mean, that was brutal. Okay, so if he's like, I don't want to kill, whatever, which he hasn't said that yet, but he does say it in the next one. And wasn't the turning point when that kid says it to him, like, you know, I'm not the bad guy kid. Wasn't that his turning point?
I guess I didn't know if it's like not explicitly stated.
Yeah, and it's a little too early in the movie for that to happen, because then he goes through like the Elektra shit, then he goes through the Bullseye shit, then he goes through Elektra dying, then he fights Bullseye again, and then he kills Bullseye. And you know, it's like, why have Bullseye surrender? I don't understand that. Just have him kill him because he in self-defense.
Because they wanted to set up the sequel. That's exactly why.
What do you mean?
At the end of the movie, like Bullseye is
Oh,
like
yeah,
hinted
yeah.
to still have
Well, I
his
meant
powers.
like, why not have him throw him out of the window in self-defense, or like Bullseye kills himself, sort of like he falls out of the window or something.
Well, like a sacrifice.
No, like he falls out of the window, something like that.
You know how like villains do that sometimes? Like they can't stand losing and they like tip themselves off of off the ledge. Like, I feel like if you know how Bullseye's obsessed
Sort of.
with Bullseye's obsessed with like missing, because he misses like a couple times in this movie. He's like, I never miss. I
Yeah.
feel like if he royally fucked up that hard, he wouldn't be able to live with it. It would make sense for him to like.
Now, isn't it interesting
off
that
the
they
ledge.
pulled the whole like Daredevil committed this crime thing in this movie also?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, I didn't.
Yeah,
really
but
see
they
a
don't make
point
as
for
big
it.
of a deal out of it as like the trailers for season 3 of the show.
Well,
made it
the
seem
show
like.
kept hitting that same note. It's like, dude, we saw it already. Stop. Anyway, one thing that has really stuck with me for as long as I've seen this movie, when Daredevil kicks Kingpin's kneecaps in.
Yeah.
Like, I swear I think about that like once a week. It's just
it's a
in
good
my
scene.
mind. It's a good scene. It's brutal though. It's so brutal. I'm like, I still remember watching it in the theater. I'm not like scarred by it, but it just stuck with me. I like the scene. But yeah, so then he doesn't kill him.
And he doesn't do so in the most cliche way possible.
I don't understand why he doesn't kill him.
I mean, I took it as like there was a little bit of an idea of like you're not the job.
I took it more as Kingpin is so evil and has caused pain for so many people that he doesn't deserve death. He deserves to rot in jail. I feel like that's kind of like what they were going for.
But then Bullseye?
Bullseye didn't die necessarily, but
I mean, he was supposed to. It doesn't make sense. Like, why would he do that? And then, you know,
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for him to kill him out of all the people that he's caused the deaths of in this movie, especially since Kingpin was the one that killed his father.
and so he forgives him.
He doesn't forgive him. I feel like his logic is like he even says that justice is served. I feel like rotting in jail for the rest of his life is what he.
But he
wanted
says,
Kingpin
"I'm
to
gonna
do.
get out," and
Yeah,
he's like, "I
guess
know.
I
I'll be
guess that's
waiting."
true.
Yeah, it's just stupid. That's what it is. And like, I don't like his like argument of like where when talking to Kingpin, he says, he says you won't, or I'm gonna tell everybody, and then Daredevil says you won't tell everyone because they'll think you got beat up by a blind man. It's like, no, just be like, he's a fucking superhero. Here's his real identity. Like, it doesn't seem like a solid enough argument, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like how they played that card. You tell everything
Okay,
you get
and,
beat up by a
and
blind man.
furthermore, okay, let's talk for a minute about after the fight, okay? So that guy's writing up his article revealing Matt Murdock is Daredevil, and he presses the backspace key once, and it deletes the entire
No, he
article.
held it down.
That's not how it works.
Yeah, but
He like sits back as it's like going away.
he pressed it once and then he like held it down. Whatever.
It's
No,
a 2003
and then he goes
movie.
outside, and Daredevil's on the roof, and he's like, "Yeah, defend our neighborhood, Batman." And then Batman flies away.
Can I just say that last scene of him jumping off the roof with the effect
dumb.
from his like the cable effect, so awful.
Thank you,
Oh my god, I hated that ending.
thank you.
Yeah, it was stupid. But I don't know. Did you guys like Michael Clark Duncan?
Who was he?
Kingpin.
Yeah.
I said before, I don't think he's a great actor, but I think he really gets the physicality.
Did you see him
down.
in The Green Mile?
Yes, and he's good there. I don't think he's a great actor in this. Like, he also didn't have a lot of room to do anything.
Well, let's
really.
compare him to Vincent D'Onofrio because
I think Vincent D'Onofrio is the better actor.
yeah, but now that we've seen how that Kingpin like finished up, I'm
I
struggling
really
to wonder
liked
what he
him.
did better.
I really liked him in seasons 1 and 2.
What did he do better?
He's like more like cold, calculating, thinking ahead especially.
But he, the show, I'm talking about
it's
like in
difficult
terms
to tell
of
because we
portrayals.
don't see enough. We don't
Not-
see enough of
Yeah,
this Kingpin.
that's what I'm saying. In terms of portrayals, not necessarily acting. The version of Kingpin in the show, you get more time with him, but aside from this version being a little more cocky, it's the same thing. It's literally the same thing, except you said that he's a little bit better physically.
I'd say he's a lot better physically.
I like the pounding that he does in the series, like the way he like hits people, but I definitely like this guy's physique. They made him gain 40 pounds for this. He was already a big guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, and I have no problem with the Black Kingpin. I thought he was like a great Kingpin.
Well, yeah. I mean, in this case, like.
And he hit a lot of the same
He looked
notes.
really imposing throughout the entire movie.
He hit a lot of the same notes, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, although I do like the TV show a lot better purely because you can really see the craziness sometimes.
I like
Kingpin displays.
I like the TV show because you get to see the relationship with Vanessa.
Like, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't there only one time in this movie where you see Kingpin really like fuck someone up, and that's Matt Murdock's dad?
I guess, yeah.
Like he finishes him off with one hit,
Yeah.
and that's it. You don't ever see him besides the last fight. You don't ever really see him do anything like that. In the show,
I like
you
that
like
too.
you see Kingpin do everything.
Yeah, he loses his mind, he tantrums like a baby. I'm okay with that for the long form storytelling, but yeah, I don't know. All right, anything else?
Other than
Oh.
that, this movie is a perfect piece of
The
2000
post credit
shit.
sequence?
Oh, that was dumb too.
Bullseye's alive.
Oh yeah, and he kills a fly. I thought it was gonna be him getting a metal spine, and I was about to flip out.
Well, I think that he was like
I think that was the point.
yeah, he
my
was
God.
like we didn't see it, but I think that was where they were going. Yeah, I like that post credit sequence too. By the way, I think it's
liked it?
funny. I think it's funny.
He's funny in the movie.
The
but-
fly's buzzing around. He just has to kill it, and then when it's dead, he's like so relieved. It's funny to me.
I don't know. Like, his whole character in this movie is on a spectrum. It's either over the top funny or over the top stupid.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Moving on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about Red Dead Redemption 2 in full spoilers at the end of the podcast, just because I know a lot of people are still playing that. So moving on to things we watched, I'm going to start breaking this up by segments. So we have our reviews of the week or review of the week. And then we're going to have the things we watched as a segment. So for me this week, I saw Sacrifice on Netflix. I was turned onto this by Joe Rogan. He had the guy who made it on his podcast, and he's basically like a hypnotist, mind expert, and it's a 48-minute sort of documentary where it's a fake experiment where he gets this guy who he's identified to be a racist, and at the end of the experiment he's going to try to get the guy, he's going to condition him to take a bullet for an immigrant for like a Mexican immigrant, and basically what he does is he tells him he inserts a chip in him that connects him to like an app that allows them to like keep track of him somehow. And so the guy believes it. They don't actually put a chip in him. And they like give him fake data. They show him fake data, whatever. They try to get him to like, the first step is to establish like the conditioning. So like when he does something good, they play like a chime. Then the second one is they try to get him to overcome his fear. So they make him do something he's afraid of, and then they try to get him to do it by playing the chime. And then the third one is like when they set up this fake thing where like someone's gonna get shot, and then they like insert the chime within the environment, like not so that he's aware of it, and to see if he'll actually like take the chime as like
So it's like
cue.
a Pavlonian thing.
Yeah, classic conditioning. So it's a 48-minute thing. It was interesting. Yeah, it was interesting. I'd give it a B. You know, if you just like, if you want to just like watch something, you don't know what, but you don't want to watch a movie, you don't want to get into a new show, it's a good thing, good idea. All right, our next segment is our trailer section. Did you guys have anything you wanted to bring up for things we watched?
No, I was gonna check out Overlord, but with the fire, and I was actually driving across the country, so I didn't have time.
Right.
I actually, I have
but I
two
will
things
see it
that,
tomorrow.
I have two things that I watched before I had to evacuate. So earlier in the week, I sat down and spent a couple hours, and I watched for the first time every single season of Entourage.
Okay.
And I'm surprised
Aquaman?
I had never seen this before, because I'm in the acting industry, and seeing this type of stuff is really funny, because a lot of it's really accurate, and it's so odd to see it. And like, even if it's like kind of joking over the top, and like, you know, it's from the perspective of an A-list actor and his friends and all that stuff. But
yeah, it was a good show, well celebrated.
Yeah, it's really good. Like, and there's a lot of things I like. I really like it. I resonate with in that show, and I thought it was really interesting. And then I don't know. I'm surprised I've never
because you
seen that
have
show
an
before.
acting background, right?
Well, yeah, because I have an acting background, and I know what it's like to go on a shit ton of auditions and not get called back and deal with agents and stuff like that. Like, the whole thing, like, when you see it from that perspective, it's just so like surreal. Like, you really, like, I really resonated with it. And then the second thing was, this isn't really, like, this is kind of not really a watch, but so the last couple days when I've been stuck in my hotel and had nothing to do, I've been rewatching, since I lost my Xbox, I've been rewatching playthroughs of the original Destroy All Humans game.
Yeah.
And I really miss playing that game. It was so fucking good when I was a little kid. Like, that was like one of the first games that I got introduced to. It has really funny writing in it.
I never played it.
Like, there's one line where one of the villains is talking to you, and they're like, Like, you think America's the only civilization on Earth, and he responds by going, "That's what all the Americans seem to think." And I remember laughing my ass off at shit like that. Like, it's really, really witty at times, and I think it's a really well made game.
All right. All right, so trailers. Detective Pikachu. Did you guys see that?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
What do you guys think?
I want Danny DeVito to be the voice of Pikachu.
It looked better than I thought. I had no idea what the hell this was. I don't know if it has like a basis. It looks okay. I wouldn't say I'm like blown away by it. Like a lot of people are like, I need to see this. I'm just like, it doesn't look bad.
Yeah, the animation looks really well
Is
made.
is Detective Pikachu something that existed already?
I think
I have no
so.
idea.
And I know it was a big joke online that people wanted Danny DeVito to play Detective Pikachu, and I really wanted that because I thought it would have been funny, but I don't really know much about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know either. But I
Doesn't
thought
it look really good?
it looks the Pokemon look weird, but I didn't realize that there were going to be a bunch of other Pokemon in it. So now I do want to see it. I thought it was just going to be a Pikachu thing for kids. I didn't realize it was a world with Pokemon, and yeah, I want to see it.
They had some stuff in this trailer that actually seemed kind of practical if Pokemon really existed in real life. Like, they had a Pokemon underground fighting ring with a Charizard.
Yeah. Okay. Creed 2. Did you guys see that?
Yes, I did. I'm really getting excited for this.
That was a
movie.
good trailer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm decently excited for that.
Have either of you seen Rocky?
Yeah.
Yes.
I saw the first
Oh,
one.
both
but
of you. Okay. Have either of you seen Rocky 4?
No.
I have not seen the one with everything.
However, I know the plot.
Yeah.
We might have to watch that one after,
Like, I know what happens, but...
because we're not going to have time. Because next week is Fantastic Beasts. If you guys weren't aware. I'm seeing it Thursday.
I have to find a time to go see that with all the shit that's going on.
Yeah. I'm seeing it Thursday, and then we'll do Creed 2, and then maybe Rocky 4 unless there's something I'm forgetting, because there's a lot of movies coming out right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like this one. I'm not really buying the matchup, like the Drago guy.
He's so much bigger.
He's so much bigger. Maybe that's a thing, because it says he issues a challenge, so maybe that's a thing, where it's like he's moving up a weight class to fight him, and he accepts the challenge. But if they're trying to pretend like those two guys are the same size, which in the Rocky movies, they used to do that. They would pretend like those two guys were the same and be like, how is he so big? All right, movie news.
Wait. Did you see the Toy Story 4 teaser thing?
Yeah. It was odd.
Is it a teaser? I thought it was just news, an announcement.
I mean, it's a trailer. It's like you watch it and like you see things, and it like has some
it's
weird
kind of a
implication on what being a toy is and whether or not every item is sentient. Did you see it?
I mean, I didn't see the teaser, no.
Okay, they're all like going in a circle holding hands, right? And it's a bunch of the toys.
Yeah.
And then it's a
watching it.
spork with like things glued onto it, and then the spork like freaks out.
I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Next summer? So is that this summer?
I don't know.
Is it summer 2019?
Yeah, this coming summer, I guess.
It's a spork. I don't understand. So the spork is sentient? Is that what you're telling me? Is that what it's trying to say? Is like the spork? Is that a toy or?
Well, it looked like a toy, like someone like that. Someone haphazardly.
So
like,
you
put it
can make
together.
everything a toy. Dr. Josh Cooley introduces the trailer. Like most people, I assume that Toy Story 3 was the end of the story. That's because it was, Josh. And it was the end of Woody's story with Andy. But just like in life, every ending is a new beginning. Woody now being in a new room with new toys and a new kid was something we have never seen before. The questions of what that would be like became the beginning of an entertaining story worth explaining. The world of Toy Story is built upon the idea that everything in the world has a purpose. A toy's purpose is to be there for its child. But what about toys that are made out of other objects? Forky is a toy that Bonnie made out of a disposable spork. So he's facing a crisis. He wants to fulfill his purpose as a spork, but now he has a new toy purpose thrust upon him. Okay. Not the worst.
I still think Toy Story is.
Tom Hanks is Woody, Tim Allen is Buzz Lightyear, Annie Potts is Bo Peep, Joan Cusack as Jessie, Blake Clark as Slinky Dog, Wallace Shawn as Rex, John Rottensberger, Estelle Harris, Jodie Benson, Michael Keaton as Ken, Jeff Pigeon, Kristen Shaw as Trixie, Bonnie Hunt as Dolly, Timothy Dalton as Mr. Pricklepants, Jeff Garland as Buttercup, Laurie Metcalf as Mrs. Davis, Patricia Arquette in an undisclosed role. Interesting. Okay. Moving on to our next bit of news. Stan Lee has passed away.
Yep.
Yes.
Today.
And I think this was best after the scandals that have marred his life.
Was he a great guy, personally?
No. He fucked over Steve Ditko a lot.
Yeah, he did some of that
there's
shit, didn't he?
But like, there's also a lot of stuff that like he was like against anti-Semitism, racism, like homophobia. Like
he was
pretty
against
early.
it?
I feel
He was
like
against it pretty early. Like
the good
like,
things that
stood
he
against
did
it.
in his life overshadow a shit ton of the bad stuff he did.
Yeah. Unless you know, I don't know. We don't know his personal life, but he strikes me as the kind of guy that has a little dirt on him, you know? Anyone who lives to 95, you've done something. But anyway, like sometimes I'm just worried because celebrity culture and the way people put celebrities on pedestals, it's like 95 years old and everyone's celebrating him for being this guy, but you know, I don't know. He couldn't have been that guy in his personal life. For all you know, he was like the most difficult person to be with at the nursing home, and didn't someone like try to rip him off? And
Yeah, they claimed he like sexually harassed them or something, but it's like he was,
I mean, he's old, so who cares? But I don't know.
The
I don't
whole
know.
comic scandal is like super famous. Is that like what was it? He like denied Steve Ditko publishing rights or something. Like,
Yeah. I
there's a
just look
reason
at
why
it.
Stan Lee's known, and a lot of people aren't.
I look at it as a 95-year-old man passed away. And yeah, he did some cool stuff. But like the fact that he was 95, let's just celebrate that, you know, a person lived that long and had an impact on the world, and let's just leave it at that. Like people are like, our Lord and Savior, blah, like shit like that. Anyway, we were discussing it earlier. What did we say, Everett?
No, I was gonna say, yeah, Stanley's cool, but yeah, you're right. 95-year-old man died.
One thing that's interesting is we've talked about this. I don't know about on the air, but so I have that Hot Toys figure of him, and the prices are shooting through the roof. People are pissed at the scalpers. Basically, Hot Toys made it's an extremely realistic figure of Stan Lee. I own it. I bought it when it was on sale, assuming he would die at some point and the value might go up. Not specifically because I was waiting for him to die, but I didn't really want it. But I saw that it was on sale, and I figured, you might as well. So I got it. I don't even put it on display. It's in its box. But now that he's gone, people are pricing it. I paid probably $200 because that's a little cheaper with the sale. People are pricing it at like $1,600 and whatever. I don't think anyone's buying at that level, but I'm seeing a lot of outcry. You know, some people are like, "Whoa, not everyone was into the hobby when this was happening. When it like came and went, so they missed out, and it's not fair to them that they have to pay extra money." And other people like stop being babies, and I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Like a lot of people are posting pictures of the figure saying "Rest in peace to a legend," stuff like that. I don't know. What do you guys think about it?
I think that there's going to be a supply and demand, and people can complain about you like driving the price up, but the reality is the only reason they think they can drive the price up is because they know people are going to want to buy the figures. And guess what? Like, people are going to want to buy them. There's not that many of them. So if you want to buy it, you pay the money because now that he's dead, the price has gone up.
I mean, yeah, like exactly right. People that got in on the ground floor and bought the figure because they were fans of Stan Lee or just they wanted the figure. They got it at a good price, and now that he's dead, and everyone who are like so big fans of him are like freaking out. People are working the system and saying, "Hey, you want this? You're gonna pay a lot more money than I did for it."
This guy Pete Topang says, "I'm still not sure why people are complaining. This is the nature of collectibles. Why would Elvis crap be so expensive?" And someone said, yeah, I also don't get them, like they're not used to it. It's been this way before, and the nature of reselling is always evil. I mean, when Carrie Fisher passed, same thing. Adam West passed, same thing. I don't even know that I'm going to sell mine, honestly. I might sell it just because I don't really want it. But I don't know.
It's
Anyway.
interesting to think about.
Yeah. So some Black Widow stuff. There's been some teaser as to what might be occurring in this film. The main villain is a male, simply described as exciting. Apparently the studio is open to ethnicity, but looking for someone in their 40s. It could be Red Guardian, Mr. X, Bengal. I don't know. We don't really know. Friends or foes, potential allies, female bonds, like James Bond. There is a female character. It's described as a female Bond and a male with an emphasis on African, Middle Eastern, or East Indian characters. So looks like there's going to be a male and a female as her friends. A secondary villain.
Before, I feel like they might go down the alternate Black Widow route, the blonde one. That would be interesting to see.
The secondary villain is a female. She'll be an older character. Actress is being sought out for 50 years old. Conniving female villain. Then there's another supporting character described as a bookish American in his late 20s. So, that's all. Rogue One, or the Disney streaming service, has announced another series. It's going to be a Rogue One prequel starring Diego Luna as Cassian Andor. That was his name, right? Cassian
a prequel
Andor.
to a prequel.
Yeah, you're just going to see more of Cassian and all that, which to me wasn't the greatest part of that film.
Yeah,
so.
I didn't really like Cassian that much.
I liked him. I just didn't like his spy thing. I don't know.
I liked him in the VR thing we did. That was funny.
It has potential. Godzilla vs. Kong. We have a synopsis. In a time when monsters walk the earth, humanity's fight for its future sets Godzilla and Kong on a collision course that will see the two most powerful forces of nature on the planet collide in a spectacular battle for the ages. As Monarch embarks on a perilous mission into uncharted terrain and unearths clues to the Titan's origins, a human conspiracy threatens to wipe the creatures, both good and bad, from the face of the earth forever.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds
It'll be interesting to see
Sure.
what the world's like after King of Monsters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? Okay. Final thing. Let's talk about Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, goody.
Full spoilers here. So I finished it. By the way, right after I finished it, I wanted to start a new game. So, because I feel like I missed some things. So I went to start a new game, and then I accidentally saved over my old save. So
Get wrecked.
That sucks.
Yeah, no, you know what,
The
though?
opposite happened for me early in the game. I got through 70% of the campaign, and then I screwed up and accidentally reverted an old save back at the very beginning.
Yeah, you told me that. I honestly give this game an A+.
Yeah, did you like the ending?
Yes. There's a lot to talk
of
about
criticism last week.
here. Yeah, there are some things about it that are broken, such as the outfit system is terrible. The bounty system is also terrible. And unfortunately, these are two major parts of the game. The bounty system, obviously, more. And by that, I mean how you get a bounty set on you, like committing crimes and whatnot. There still isn't a whole lot to explore, but in terms of dialogue options. But now I see what the game was going for story-wise. So the best way to play this game is don't free roam. I would recommend against that. I would say go where the story takes you and explore within that area. Mm-hmm. So I found the UFO. Have you seen it, Everett?
Yeah, I've seen it.
You've seen it in the game?
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool. Scary, even. But you know what was scary is so we did a mission up there where the guy hid the money in the tree. And then I went down and I was like, what's this house? So I go in there and the door's open. So I'm like, okay. See, before I thought like you were supposed to just walk into everywhere and then that would end up people getting mad at you. But now that I've played the game, I understand. So the door's open. That means I can go in and it's okay. I'm not going to get busted for this. Otherwise, stay out, right? Unless you're going to commit a crime. So I walk in and there's like bunk beds everywhere and skeletons everywhere. I'm like, what the fuck happened here? And then there's that note that says something about like coming back at 2 a.m. or that's when the UFO comes, whatever. So, I came back at 2 a.m. and there it was, like the light shone on me and I was like, what the hell? But there are certain things about this that I missed before, like in my first playthrough, because I didn't understand how the game worked or what I was supposed to be doing. And I really like it, especially Arthur. Now that I know his arc, like I love in the beginning of the game how much of an asshole he is, and then knowing where it's leading. Emerson, I don't know if you knew this. So this game, this is heartbreaking. When he gets tuberculosis, that I've never seen that in a game.
Yeah.
That was insane.
Explain.
That blew my mind.
There's so many things in this game that I wanted to talk about last week that we couldn't, so I can finally talk about it with you now.
So at the beginning of the game, sort of, there's a German guy who like loans money to people in the gang, or like he's in the gang. He loans it to other people outside of the gang. He loans them money knowing that they can't pay him back, and then the gang kind of goes back in like strong arms and takes a bunch of shit, right? So his name is Herr Strauss, Leopold Strauss, and you do a couple of these missions, and then you go to the town Valentine, and you have a fight in the bar, and you're about to beat this guy to death, and some idiot stops you. This is a guy who works for the church. Turns out this church guy borrowed money from Leopold Strauss and has not paid it back. And the reason he doesn't think he has to pay it back is because he's dying. And so he's just like, just not going to pay it. So Leopold keeps telling you, like, go over there. I already gave him some time because he's a man of God and because he's sick and he's still not paying. So you go over there now and you do something. So you go over there and Arthur's like an asshole at the beginning of the game. And he beats the shit out of him. And as he holds the money, he's like, give me the fucking money. The guy coughs in Arthur's face. And he's like, ugh. And the game does not play it as like, this is a big deal. I barely remembered that this even occurred. I completely forgot. And I took my time with my first playthrough, like a lot of time. So what was actually like the midway point of the story for me was like the last 30%. So the game takes its time. So he coughs in your face, you yell him about the money, whatever. That he ends up dying anyway. The family, you keep running into the widow at different towns. She's a prostitute now and whatever. One time I'm walking in Saint Denis, which is basically like New Orleans, and I collapse and fall. I go to the doctor, and the doctor tells me I have tuberculosis, and
you're dead.
I'm basically dead. Yeah, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, is the game serious? Like, is it telling me right now that the character is gonna die? I don't understand. Like, how can I have tuberculosis? Like, is this like a side mission? Am I gonna find a cure? Like, I didn't know what was going on. No, he's gonna die. That's it, and you know that. From then, the game just had me hooked. And so Arthur starts to see things. Such a well-written character. Arthur starts to see things in a different way. Like, it's no longer about getting what's yours. Now he's just trying to do what he can for people before he's gone, like the people around him. And so the game, initially, remember how I complained how you didn't really have like the option to
choices.
Yeah. It's because in the beginning of the game, he's cutthroat and he doesn't give a shit. Then towards the end, you still don't have a choice, but now he's starting to do good things. It's not like in the first Red Dead Redemption when John Marston's running around and you kind of have a choice because he's like this former outlaw working for the government and it's a little bit illegal and like you don't have like the duality here. At first, he's definitely like a bad outlaw. He likes shooting people. He doesn't care about robbing. People are like, hey, you want to go rob a stagecoach? He's like, fuck yeah. Then later, like more spoilers, he I think I go to get money from somebody else, like later in the game. Strauss is like, go talk to these people, get the money. I go over there, they're poor. There's two different people. I end up absolving the debt for both of them. In fact, I think Arthur even gives them money. And he goes back to Strauss and he confronts him. And he's like, why are you preying on these weak people? These are not the people that we're supposed to be like taking from. We're trying to take from the rich and like the structure of society. You're just preying on desperate people. And he throws Strauss out of the camp. And I don't know. I just like it. I like the journey the game takes you on. Mm-hmm. And whatever. What do you think?
I think the story is very well structured, and it's like the same thing for you. I kind of got confused when I hit the island part of the campaign.
Oh yeah, right.
And I'll let you like talk about that in a minute. I got really confused about that, but then after that, when we get back to civilization, the ending for Arthur, was so heartbreaking for me, and I don't know what version of it you got because there are two versions of it.
Well, I went to help John. I didn't go for the money.
Yeah. I went to help John too, but I looked up that there are two different versions of it.
I watched it, yeah.
Yeah.
He gets murdered.
I got the bad version. Which one did you get?
How did you get the bad version?
Well, okay, so there's a good version and a bad version. The good version is, I think if you go for the money, Dutch ends up intervening, and Micah doesn't do anything, and you just watch the sunrise as you slowly. Like,
wait, no. If you go for the money, no, that's if you go for John.
Well, no, I went for John too, and I got the same thing.
So he still watches the sunrise?
No. I went for John, and I got my head blown off.
Are you sure you're not remembering this incorrectly?
Yeah, I'm not remembering this incorrectly. There were two choices. You either go back for the money, or you help John escape to safety. I chose John escapes to safety. I go up the mountain. You're helping him like move along. You start gunning down law officers as they start coming up the hill, and then you run into Micah and you get into the fist fight with him on that little cliff.
Yeah.
And then Micah has you like on the ground, and Dutch comes up, and then like leaves. But then what happened for me is Micah just ends up blowing my head off. The other version of that.
How did you get that ending?
I have no idea. There are two different versions of it. I think it has something to do with your, like, it's not karma, but your honor or something. Because the other version of that is he leaves with Dutch and you succumb to your TB and you watch the sunrise. It was so crazy, I just got my head blown off by Micah. But that made me hate him so much more.
Huh.
But that's not even the part of that mission that broke my heart. The part that broke my heart was the part with my horse.
When the horse dies. Dude, I had a black and white horse I named Sirius. And he fucking died.
Like, Emerson, like, for reference, I don't know if you know what happens, but you're escaping with John Marston, and both of your horses get shot down. And this is part of the game where you've had your horse for a long time, you've built up a relationship with it, you have a high level, like, all these different things. And Arthur straight up stops the fight and the escape to go to the horse and basically, like, stay with him for the final moments of his life, and it's so heartbreaking.
Can I just say this? I'm in love with Sadie.
Yeah, bro. I like what she becomes. I like how she gets her own moniker.
I love her accent and the way she talks, even though it's like doesn't seem like a real accent. It's like way too over the top, but I love her attitude, everything. I'm like totally in love with her. Yeah. One of the best characters in like video games. The thing about when after the game was over, I was like, when the fuck did Arthur get tuberculosis? So I looked up when does Arthur contract tuberculosis, and then it tells me it was when that guy fucking coughed in his face. Because I think there's a scene where he meets the nun that's going to Mexico, mm-hmm. and he says to her, he basically says like, I'm afraid to die, and she says, well, how did you get sick? And he says, beating up a sick man for a couple dollars is how he got sick. And I was like, wait. I thought this was something else. So I didn't know. I had to go back and I was like, oh shit. So now that I'm playing through it again, I see everything through a different lens.
So you're gonna try to like build up his karma?
Well, no, I'm just gonna play the game the way it was. Like I'm an asshole in the first part of this game now. I robbed the doctor's office. I did a bunch of shit, but like so after when you ride back after the guy coughs in your face, Arthur kind of like as he's riding back in the cutscene, he kind of like wipes his mouth and looks at it on the glove a little bit, and I was like, dear God, it was there the whole time, and then after that, you know that he's basically already dead. You know that. So then you get all the others like missions where like he goes to talk to Mary, who's like his love interest. And so like she's they're rekindling a couple things, like some feelings, and you know he's dead. He's already dead.
Yeah,
he
that
doesn't
was
even
really
know
sad.
it. That's crazy.
I took the option to take her on the date to the movies, and there's an option in there where you can like try to put your arm around her and she rejects you.
Yeah, I did that too.
Yeah.
I liked Mary. She was a little too like. I liked her whole story where at one point she was too good for him and her family said no, and now her family is kind of fallen apart, and her life is falling apart, and she is kind of available to him, but like she's a little still too much of a chicken because so many other people have made her decisions for her. She like doesn't say what she needs to say, and yeah. Anyway, so you get to the end where and Arthur's dead, and this is one criticism I have is I feel like the game moves on from his death so quickly.
Yeah.
He dies, and then it just completely moves on. So it jumps to a couple years later where John Marston. How long was that epilogue? There's 2 epilogues, but I loved it. Of John Marston getting his farm on Beecher's Hope, building the house with Uncle and Charles. Sadie comes back. He makes money. I just really liked it.
Yeah. I thought it was really well done. And not to mention, I wanted to mention this last week, but we couldn't talk about Arthur's death. If you do certain things as Arthur, they come back to like affect you when you play as John. Like,
So tell me some of them, because I know of one.
The main one I'm referring to is when you're in Valentine, there's this one-armed soldier who's walking around saying, "Please show me some kindness. Please show me some kindness."
Yeah.
When I played as Arthur, I walked up to him and I gave him a hug and I was nice to him. And then later on, when I was playing as John, I came back to Valentine and the guy was still there. So I quizzically walked up to him and the guy's like, "I haven't been shown kindness in such a long time. Last fella I remember was this. He was this old dude. He gave me a hug. He was so nice to me." And John's like, "Yeah, I remember. He's long dead now." So there was a nice little callback. There was another one. I think it was around Saint Denis. It was if someone you robbed, if you robbed a certain person, you find them again as John, and they mention how they got screwed over on the street by Arthur. Like small little things that come back to.
Did you go find other members of the gang?
Yeah.
Tilly's in Saint Denis, Pearson's in Rhodes. He's the shopkeeper. I went to Arthur's grave.
I couldn't find Arthur's grave. I wanted to find that.
Just look it up. Yeah, it's near that mysterious house that's in the like built into the hill. Mm-hmm. There's some wolves guarding it.
You know what I'm really disappointed in, and so I wanted to get into more of this game, but then my house burned down, so I couldn't. So, I've been researching a lot of stuff to do in this game while I've been in this hotel, and there are so many things that I missed, so many Easter eggs and cool little side missions, like there's a theory that you know how when you help his love interest, you get her son back from that weird cult.
Yeah, I just did that. It's not her son; it's her brother.
Or her brother, or whatever. People have a theory that cult is the beginnings of the Epsilon program from GTA 5.
Yeah.
So
yeah, me too. There was a bunch of shit that I missed completely that I really liked.
Did you find there's 2 missions that I missed. And then there's all the other stuff that I talked about last week, like there's the mutant, there's the witch cauldron, there's the UFO you found, there's the meteorite. But then there's 2 side missions that I missed. And I don't know if I want to. If you don't know what they are, I don't really want to spoil them for you.
Let me know because I don't want to miss them.
Have you met the? Have you been in Saint Denis and done the little boating mission with the dude?
No.
No. Well, there's that, and then
wait. Is that the ferry mission?
No, it's The first one is if when you're in Saint Denis and you're walking through town, if you walk by a pond, there's this like British dude.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah,
Where
that guy.
where it's like a drone or something.
Yeah, huh? Did you finish it?
Yeah.
You did it all the way through.
Well, I did that mission, and then I went to
Yeah.
the Elektra. Oh yeah, where he builds the robot.
Yeah, huh?
And then I guess if you go back as John, you find the robot like alive on the cliff, calling
Yeah,
for its father.
well,
I didn't
did
see
you-
that.
Did you go back to the workshop?
Yeah, I watched him die.
Yeah. The robot straight up kills him, dude. Like, that's crazy. But then the other one is the stone carving Easter egg mission.
I never finished that.
But you met the guy in the weird, who's saying, like, you gotta go find these stone carvings?
No, I just found some stone carvings. I found like 3 of them.
Do you want me to tell you what that mission is?
Yeah, what happens if you find them all?
So, well, the way it starts is you find this random house in the middle of the wilderness, and out comes this dude in like 1950s clothing, who has this weird ass birthmark on his face, and he talks in these really weird metaphors and like this weird way of talking. Like you tell something's up, but he doesn't really like strike you at first. And this guy.
Wait,
tells
so how do you
like,
find him?
He's just sitting outside on his house, and he'll be like talking to himself. And if you approach him,
But how do you find him?
you have to do it as Arthur. I don't think you can do it as you can't do it as John.
So you have to find the stones first?
No, you have to find him on his house first. He's just sitting on his porch.
Oh, okay. Where was the house?
If I remember correctly, it's somewhere. I think it's near Valentine or something. It's in the forest. But eventually, he tells you like, go find all these stone carvings and tell me where they are. And then, you want me to spoil it for you?
Sure.
So once you find all the stone carvings, you come back to his house, and he's not there anymore. He disappears. So you go in, and inside his house is this really strange drawing. It's like, it shows him like in a bunch of different scenarios that don't look anything like the game. And then in walks this woman with a baby, and she's like, hello, can I help you? And you're like, oh yeah, I'm looking for your husband. And she goes, my husband died 10 years ago. And she holds up the child, and the child has the guy's birthmark on his face. So it's insinuating that the guy was a time traveler.
Weird.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Did I tell you guys about the couple in the cabin I went to? I probably didn't tell you that. Emerson, you still here?
Yeah, I am. I'm just letting you guys,
Oh.
because I don't really have much to add.
So I'm going through a cabin or through the woods. I come across a cabin. There's a big fat guy in overalls sitting outside. Did you find this guy, Everett?
No, I didn't find this guy.
So as I passed by, he's like, "Hey, partner, come on in. Come eat some food." And I was like, "No, I don't really want to." He's like, "No, come on in. Come on. How can you say no to good food? My wife's already got it ready. Just come inside. We never get company around here. Come on." So I'm like, "Okay," because I think I had just gotten tuberculosis, and I was losing weight. So I was skinny and I needed to eat, and I hadn't figured out like the food system yet. So I was like, okay, at the very least, I'll get some food out of this. And so I go in there, and his wife comes in, and she's a little like rough looking, but she's kind of busty, and she's got like a low cut shirt. And they're all super friendly, and she's like, I didn't know we were having company. This is so great. Like, I'm going to go upstairs and freshen up. You guys sit at the table. So I sit down at the table with the guy. I'm waiting to see, like, they're so overly friendly. Usually that's like a trick in this game, right? Like, someone might try to kill me. So I'm sitting down at the table. We sit there for about 30 seconds, and the guy goes, "Oh, she's taking too long. Can you go up there and tell her to hurry up?"
Oh my god.
And I'm like, okay. So I get up, and I'm like, should I just walk out? And then, so I go slowly up the stairs. The entire time, I'm watching the guy. I'm like, if this guy gets out of his chair, I'm killing both of them. I don't care. Because at this point, I was like being nicer, right? That's what Arthur was doing. So I'm like, I'm just going to kill both of them. So I watch him. I go up the stairs so slowly. I'm like, is he going to get up or what? The guy stays seated. I go up to the bedroom. I walk in. She's staring at herself in the mirror. She's like changing her clothes, but she's not naked. And she's like, "Oh, excuse me." And I'm like, sorry. The guy said, come down soon. And she's like, "Oh, okay. Don't be shy. There's nothing wrong with looking. There's not a crime to look." And I'm like, okay. So I go back downstairs. I don't know what would have happened if I approached her. I go back downstairs, and the guy's still sitting there. I was like expecting an ambush or something. So I sit back down, and the wife comes down. She's got the food, and they start talking. And the game didn't give me an option to like eat the food. He just started eating it. So I was like, okay, I hope it's not poisoned. But so I start eating, and it's all good. And I'm like, all right, well, thank you. It's been great. And they're like, no, you can't leave. And they start talking about how hard their lives have been. And they give me a drink, and Arthur just drinks it. And I think he's drunk. It doesn't seem like I was roofied or something, but I think he just gets drunk immediately. And they're holding hands, and they're talking about how hard their lives have been, especially since Ma and Pa passed. And I go,
They're brother and sister?
they're brother and sister, and they want to have a threesome. So I get up from the table, and they're like, where are you going? Where are you going? And I'm like, no, I can't. And they're like yelling at him. They're literally like, so, why are you leaving? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah. I could have said yes. I had the choice. But I just felt like Arthur's dying, and like there's certain things you don't come back from. And I walked out. The entire time they were yelling. That was a fun interaction. Everett, how did you dress up John Marston?
I didn't, because I had like a certain outfit I had for Arthur that I got really obsessed with.
Well, what did you have for Arthur?
For Arthur, I had I made him look like a gunslinger, like a bounty hunter gunslinger. I had him in the black trench coat. I had him in a white button down shirt, black pants, the gun belt, and the bandolier, and I think it was the rancher's hat, like the really big hat. Okay. And then when I switched to John, I kind of had the same problem you had with the food, where I couldn't get him to get any fatter, so he was always super hella skinny.
Yeah.
And he didn't look good in that outfit, so I just kept him in his original outfit. I had him in I think it was a vest. And
his character model looks kind of weird, doesn't it?
When he runs, it's like kind of a waddle almost.
Yeah. So for Arthur, I had 3 outfits that I like to do. One was like my gunslinger thing. I used the black hunting jacket with a black vest and a black shirt and a black bandana, and there was like silver leather chaps, something like that, but they were actually black. So I wore those over black pants and boots, and I liked his gambler's hat because I liked the way it like tilted. So I wore that. Then I had a second one, which was like my camp outfit, and it was the worsted jacket, like a beige one, with a brown vest and brown pants and a blue shirt with an open collar and a beige hat. I think it was the stalker hat. Mm-hmm. And then I had no hat, and it was just like a white shirt with a tie and a black vest and black pants, that was like my street, like civilized outfit that I would wear later. But then I was obsessed with getting haircuts and shaving, which is interesting.
I liked him, I started out the game with having him have as big a beard as possible, because at first I wanted to start this game with him being fat and have a big ass beard and have him be that kind of like burly lumberjack looking dude.
Yeah, which he's supposed to be.
Yeah, but I ended up really enjoying having him be clean shaven and look more like clean than dirty.
I really liked getting haircuts, and I started to do the swept back fade with an extra clean shave, and he looks so clean and proper. And I really like that, especially once you get to Saint Denis. Like that was like my go-to. Anytime I had a mission with Mary, I would like get cleaned up like that. And then I went with John, and he had that beard, and he has a scar on his face. And in the first game, he's got the long hair and all that.
I hated the beard on John. I shaved that as soon as I could.
It was out of there, yeah. So I cleaned up John too, the exact same way with the fade and the clean shave, and man, he looks like a different guy. Like it's actually fun, like to walk around as him knowing that that's John Marston, and he looks so different, so cleaned up. Especially now that I've restarted the game.
Did you catch the reference to Red Dead Redemption in the epilogue?
Which one? There's like a million.
When John Marston is on the ranch, and he goes to the neighboring ranch and kills all those people. Yeah. And he goes into the barn, and there's the last guy who's taunting his wife. and he holds the double barrel shotgun up to him, it completely recreates the cover to Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course. Yeah. Yeah. I love that too.
I love that.
And I killed him like right away. I didn't wait.
I waited for like a second just to hear his spiel, but then I gunned him down.
Yeah, he said something. He's like rancher, and I blew his brains out.
If you listen to it, it's pretty vulgar. He tells you he's gonna like bang your wife and like kill everyone, a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, that was a really cool scene though. Okay, who's better, Marston or Arthur?
I mean, it's kind of odd because I know what happens to Marston in the next game. But I kind of like Arthur a little bit more because I feel like they kind of go on a similar journey, but Arthur has a lot more. Like he redeemed himself, and I enjoyed that.
I think this second playthrough is going to be very telling because I don't know. Like when I got to John, I was like, this feels right. I like John. Arthur was a different kind of person to me. John was very much like I could identify with him. Arthur, he was an asshole, and then he died. It took, I don't know. Now that I'm playing as him, like I see him for who he is. His father was an outlaw, and I don't know.
Well, it's interesting because I remember telling you that I wanted to play this game through and then immediately go back into Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, which I think I will.
It works really well because, especially in the end credits of this game, it leads
the credits
up
are great.
Right to the start of the next game.
The
credits you see
are
Ross and everyone walking around and getting information.
What do you think Red Dead Redemption 3 will be?
I have no clue, but
it's two things for me. It's not Jack. I don't think it's Jack.
Yeah.
To me, it's either like a completely new thing, possibly with Sadie going to South America. Like imagine a female main character. You remember how she said she might go to South America?
Uh-huh.
So I could see that, or I could see, honestly, what would make the most sense is show. You know how both games have been like the outlaws are sort of dying out.
Yeah.
Show when they weren't dying out. Let's see Dutch in his prime. Let's make him the main character. And
I mean, you know what I wouldn't mind seeing? I wouldn't mind seeing mid-Civil War America.
Well, so this is 1899, so you're still talking about like almost a little over 20 years.
Mm-hmm. But wouldn't you have liked to
No,
see
more
like
than 20 years.
mid-Civil
More.
War when all that shit's going on?
I want to see. I would like to see, because they got Arthur when he was like 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind a game that like really, because these games are good at time traveling. I wouldn't mind a game that shows you, like, let's start it at the Civil War, maybe a couple missions with Dutch, like during that, show Dutch who Dutch is, and then let's fast forward to where he meets Arthur and John and Hosea and Charles. Like, I want to see all that, and I want to see the gang be the gang, instead of like the shambles of the gang.
I hated Dutch so much in this game. Like, knowing what he does in Red Dead Redemption and how much kind of a dick he is, seeing him in this game kind of like evolve into that, God, it was so good, but I hated him.
I didn't hate him that much. I mean, there's certain things about him that are good. Like they talk about
like those points where you like see him start to evolve into a dick, like where he leaves John for dead and then he leaves you for dead.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. What was he doing? Was he afraid?
No, I think he was just trying to like
cut his losses.
I think he was just trying to cut his losses or something along those lines because he kept using the same excuse. I tried my best.
Well,
I tried my best.
The game actually says a couple things about. It says like, how they suggest that he's keeping the money for himself.
Mm-hmm.
I got the impression that maybe he was sort of okay with people dying off to keep the money on his own. Like, hey, if John dies, John dies, and if Arthur dies. And he seems to like Micah, but I feel like he would have done the same thing to Micah. It seemed
honestly,
like he was getting more desperate and sort of thinking like, okay, what am I going to do for myself now? You know what I mean?
You know what this game does really well, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but this kind of popped into my head. This game is really good at building relationships with the characters in your gang, and then just completely shutting you down with them. Like when you go on the hunting trip with what's his name? Is it Hosea?
Yeah, that's one. Then there was also Hamish.
Yeah, well, you go on the hunting trip and you like hunt down the bear, and then when you're in Saint Denis robbing the bank, and he just gets gunned down in the street.
Yeah.
The worst one for me
And
though
Lenny.
was the worst one was Lenny. That one made me so sad.
Well, that wasn't even a cutscene. That was like right in front of you in the
Yeah.
game.
That was like so sad because my favorite mission of all time is probably the same one that everyone else has, is the drunk mission, where you go to the bar
Yeah,
and you get drunk.
that was
with
fun.
Lenny.
Yeah, but see, I don't get what is the point of them saying John is dead when you know John's not dead. Like
Well,
at the end of the
'cause
game.
Dutch left him for dead and is just trying to forget him already. Like, John's dead, forget about him.
I don't understand how they could so they didn't even check. Like what?
Well,
what?
no,
I don't get that
I
logic.
think he just left him.
But he peeled off. He peeled off to go look at him, and he didn't really look at him. I don't get that. The other thing, shit, what was it? I didn't like the ending, honestly, like Arthur's ending, because they talk about this money from Blackwater, right? That they left there,
Yeah.
and the whole game kind of makes you think that they're gonna end up going back to Blackwater, to get the money as like one last thing, and they never do that. That never comes.
Yeah, I was surprised, because half the map you don't even get to explore in the campaign.
That's so weird.
Like, you don't go to Blackwater. You see Blackwater once, but you never go there. You never go down to the desert, and it was so perplexing to me. Because did you ever get a chance to go down to the lower part of the map?
Yeah, I tried to get to Mexico. You can't get there without a glitch, right? You have to glitch your way
I
in.
didn't even know that Mexico existed in this game. I wasn't lying when I said that to you. Because I got to Armadillo, and I got to there was one other town. And then I saw that there was more of the map, but I couldn't get past this one ridge. I couldn't climb up, so I didn't know whether or not Mexico was actually in the game.
It's weird how they basically gave us a remastered version of that game.
Yeah, it's odd. Now I kind of want to see Red Dead Redemption remastered with better graphics.
I would like to see that too, just for the facial expressions alone.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to see them do a remaster that actually kind of gives you the options of this game. Like, let me change my hair. Let me, get fat and all that. Like, if they remastered that game, it would sell so well.
I know. And I'm kind of wondering, how they're going to implement all this into an online. Because the online is supposed to come out sometime this month.
That's what I was going to say to you, Emerson, so let's just say they put out a director mode. First of all, the day-night cycle in this game is ridiculous. It goes so fast.
So it's going to be a pain in the ass.
That, and you can't grow your hair out. You can't make your hair longer. You have to grow your hair out. It takes time. You can buy hair tonics, but it takes time. You have to go to sleep, and it's a big process.
Well, they're probably gonna they'll probably kind of go around that for the online.
I wouldn't put it past them.
You can, what?
They don't really make online user friendly.
I mean, if it's anything like the last iteration, because Red Dead Redemption had the ability to make your own private sessions and kind of mess with the settings and stuff.
But so did GTA 4, and then GTA 5
so
didn't.
did GTA 4, and GTA 5 dumped that. I know.
I was thinking about this. I don't think that they're going to do. They're not going to make Red Dead Online the next GTA Online. I think.
I mean, I started reading the interviews with a couple of the Rockstar execs about what they're going to do, and they have said they learned a lot. They learned a lot of lessons from GTA Online, and they're going to implement all the shit they changed into Red Dead Online and make it a lot better, supposedly.
So it's probably going to be out right at around Thanksgiving, something like that.
Yeah, that's
hopefully.
Suck. I'm probably going to miss that.
Yeah. But I feel like they're going to respect it as its own entity, because if you notice, they didn't even use the same process for the voice actors. There's their faces are not based on the voice actor, whereas Franklin, Trevor, and Michael were. The Red Dead, they seem to be treating like its own animal. They have fictional places, but it's still America. It's still the United States. It's still like the president is the president. It's not like Liberty City. They don't do shit like that. They treat it like it's real.
Honestly, you know what I was kind of doing while I was doing these playthroughs? Because GTA Online had that thing where you could go and get the double action revolver.
Yeah.
I kept saying in my mind, all right, I'm going to pretend like Arthur is Cheech's grandfather, and this weapon is handed down through the generations.
I have a hard time making my weapons look good.
You know what I ended up doing? I had two parts to playing this game. I had before Chapter 5, where I think I used the volcano pistols.
Yeah, I used that too.
I had two solid black dual wield volcano pistols with I think it was a scorpion on the handle, and I loved using those. And then after Chapter 5, I had dual Mausers.
See, it never occurred to me to dual wield the same weapon twice. I was always using the volcanic pistol and the sawed-off shotgun for close quarters.
Honestly, if you use the dual Mausers, it's so overpowered. The fire rate is insane.
I'm not interested in any of the pistols. I came here for revolvers. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know what? I'm kind of surprised they didn't have the high-powered pistol from Red Dead in this still. Because that was like my favorite weapon in that game. It's like the M1911.
Yeah, I mean this game is something else. I don't know what else to say about it. Did you notice John and Abigail standing on their graves after the credits?
Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah. I'm probably going to play the first one after I finish this one, but I was surprised at how much fun I'm having on the second playthrough. I'm really enjoying it. I guess it was my expectations, All right, then. So we finished here?
Yeah, I got nothing else to say other than it's perfect. I love it.
Emerson, this conversation doesn't make you want to play it in any way?
I mean, it does. I've been playing less Xbox, though, and, single-player games has never been something I jump into rapidly. I know I'm going to pick it up when online drops, so I might as well do the campaign.
I mean, if you're not playing that much, you might as well do it now because it's going to take you some time.
That's true.
Did you ever play the campaign of the first one?
Never played a Rockstar campaign.
Do you know how it ends?
Marsden dies, right?
Yeah, but do you know how?
No, I don't remember.
I mean...
Actually, that's not true. The only campaign I played was the Undead Nightmare campaign.
That's the only one I haven't played. It might be worth it to at least watch the video after this ends. After you beat this game, I would go watch the Red Dead Redemption the movie, the cutscene.
Well, I own the first Red Dead. I could play it potentially.
You could.
It has one of
shorter.
The best endings.
Yeah, but there was the statistic that said less than 10% actually completed that game.
Really?
Just because it's an epic story, and I mean that in terms of length and scale. So
it's kind of similar to
it was good the whole way. Yeah, it was good the whole way. It wasn't.
Eventually, I'll check it out.
All right, Fantastic Beasts coming up, and hopefully a little rework of our podcast here.
All
right, guys. See you next time.
Peace.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Iron Koob Superhero Movie Review Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and most importantly, review our podcast on iTunes so we can spread the show around. To contact the show, you can reach us at theironkoob@gmail.com and on Instagram @theironkoob. This has been an Iron Koob production. Join us for another edition of the Iron Koob Superhero Movie Review Podcast.